funky disclosure. What's the cock? Funky disclosure. You're all out of luck. Funky disclosure. We won't get our funky disclosure. Aliens or not, it's just funky disclosure. Tom DeLonge on the case. Funky disclosure. Blink 182 up into space. Funky disclosure. Louis Elizondo files. Funky disclosure. Pentagon dollar cash bribes. Funky disclosure. Clear on the great CE5. Funky disclosure. Meditate to see that live. Funky disclosure. Logan's podcast hype. Funky disclosure. Talking celebrity hype. Funky disclosure. Celebrity grift in the know. Funky disclosure. Narrative you don't know. Funky disclosure. Alien others a box. Funky disclosure. Putting it all on block. Funky disclosure. Funky, yeah, fun, funky. Funky, funky. Funky, funky disclosure.
Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back. We're back tonight with kind of a new, I think this is going to be a series because there's somebody out there named Jesse Michels. His show is called American Alchemy, but really it should be called American Bullshittery. And I am just blown away by the deception that this guy uses in order to sell people fake alien stories, UFO stories. And there's really, a playbook that all of these people use. Third Phase of Moon uses it, Secure Team 10 uses it, Ross Coulthart uses it, and Jesse Michels certainly uses it. And the playbook is basically that you do absolutely no research. You do absolutely no fact checking. You just let people tell their bullshit stories. And then you stand next to them, grabbing as many UFO dollars from this asshole that you just platformed as you possibly can. And there's some like egregious examples of this guy doing absolutely no research, which for all of his bragging about this big organization behind him, and he's got people that work for him. Can't somebody else do the research if you're too lazy to? So really, there are just a few possibilities about why Jesse Michels platforms so many hoaxes, fake people, fake government insiders. We've got him dead to rights with Charles Hall. He's a fake Air Force veteran. He was never in the Air Force. We'll show you all the proof. But Jesse Michels sits next to Charles Hall like a fucking retard for hours, listening to Charles Hall tell him stories about meeting tall white aliens. And by the way, just for a historical sense, Jesse, I actually do research, unlike you. The first people to interview Charles Hall was actually Michael Salla, who counts him as one of his biggest, first big government insiders. Michael Salla is as credible as a crackhead. So if this guy originates from a guy who's as credible as a crackhead, what does that say about Jesse Michels? Also, just letting him tell stories with absolutely no fact checking. He's got a whole staff. You can't file some FOIA requests. You can't file, like we did with the National Personnel Records Center to verify if he was in the Air Force or not. No, you just ran to get the UFO dollars. And Jesse Michels is such a fucking moron that on Twitter, I posted the letter from the National Personnel Records Center. It says Charles Hall was never in the Air Force. He was never in the Air Force. What does Jesse Michels do? He posts a fake document, it's a fake document that's supposed to be an Air Force document. And where did he get that document? He got the document from the asshole fake stolen valor Air Force fraud telling alien stories, Charles Hall. The documents that Charles Hall provides to people are fake documents. Go, Jesse. I dare you. Go get those documents he gave you authenticated. get another copy from the government to prove that that's a real government document. He can't, and he won't. And really, there's just a few personalities. There's a few possibilities about why Jesse Michels does this. The first possibility is that he is the dumbest, biggest fucking moron to ever study UFOs or report on UFOs. He is the dumbest, laziest, most ridiculous UFO podcaster ever. He is the dumbest, the laziest, can't do one bit of research before running to upload to YouTube and sell a story. And by the way, he's making tens of or 20 thousands of dollars or more, 10, 20, $30,000 platforming these evidence-free storytelling morons, some of which can be easily proven fake and debunked. So there's certainly a financial motive, but back to the three possibilities. Either he's the dumbest, laziest UFO podcaster ever, or another possibility is he knows these people are fake and he does not care. He's there to get the money, friends. He's there to suck up every dollar he can, right? That's another possibility. And the third possibility is that he's retarded. Those are the only three. So pick one. All three options paint Jesse Michels as a scumbag. And let's be clear, there's an awful lot of scumbags in UFOs. There's something and why does nobody talk about this? You can't fix a problem, right? Unless you at least address the problems first, right? We want to take a moment to thank some kind and generous benefactors. Regan Havoc just became a YouTube channel member during the live broadcast. And we always say, if you become a YouTube channel member during the live broadcast, we give you a big shout out and thank you. I thought you were already a member, but thanks for becoming a member again, I guess. And another one from Regan Havoc says, let's get the goal rolling. Yes, that's one. 19 to go. We're looking for 20 super chats of 5 or more to hit tonight's funding goal. So back to the possibilities. Look, none of those three possibilities looks good. And Jesse Michels, if you show me your medical records and prove to me and the world that you're actually retarded, then I will apologize for busting your balls about doing no research, because obviously maybe you just don't have the gray matter to do the research. You don't have the gray matter to ask any real questions, right? Or something's going on there, which is incredible. But let's take a moment now, and we'll just look through his channel, and we'll show you some things, because this is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous that this guy gets away with this shit, and he's literally making probably hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And all he has to do is pretend that all the people he talks to aren't evidence-free storytelling morons. In one case, David Grush, he made a lot of money off of David Grush, a person who was in a mental institution twice, who says interdimensional space monsters are coming here to murder us, right? But somehow he can't ask for any evidence. During that entire thing, he didn't ask for any evidence, which just shows you, if you're not asking for evidence, then what are you doing? Then you're just doing propaganda, I guess? Oh, I'm sorry. Wrong one. Okay, so this is his channel. And here we see the David Grush. The UFOs had bodies inside. David Grush tells me everything. Well, I noticed that he didn't tell you any evidence, because I always have to do this. Days since June 5th. I got a new keyboard, and it's a brand new keyboard, and the space key is sticking already. I just took it out of the box. 962 days. Congratulations, Jesse. You platformed a loser, scumbag liar who told stories, fantastic stories, but hasn't delivered any evidence in 962 days now. I mean, how long are we supposed to wait for the evidence to get here? Are we supposed to just, I don't know, pretend that he doesn't have evidence? Because he doesn't have any evidence, none. I don't care about him interviewing Joe Rogan. Those two talked about a bunch of nonsense. Here's the Charles Hall. This guy, Charles Hall, is a fake Air Force veteran. He was never in the Air Force. His entire story starts with, when I was in the Air Force. And by the way, Jesse Michaels, you moron, in Charles Hall's books, he gives specific details about, oh, I went to this weather observer class at on this base at this time. Go check, because we did. He's not in that class. He was not in that class. His name's not listed. His picture is not in there with the graduating class picture. He was absent. He was never in that weather observer class that he claimed. So there's more than just the confirmation from the National Personnel Record Center that he was never actually in the Air Force. There's more proof than that. His own public statements prove that he's a liar and a scammer and has been scamming people. And back to where did he originate from? Paula Harris, who was the person doing the Trinity UFO hoax with Jacques Vallée. She's been selling hoax books, hoax nonsense stories for decades. And of course, Dr. Michael Salla. And I don't care how many degrees Dr. Salla has or if he's a real doctor. He's basically like a mentally challenged midget. He believes anything anybody tells him. He's doing live streams with a guy wearing a fucking like a helmet, an airsoft helmet, claiming that he's going on space adventures and fighting aliens. So congratulations, that's Charles Hall, a complete and total lunatic that has been scamming the public, selling books, claiming he was in the Air Force for decades. That's a crime, Jesse. You're helping him commit a crime. It's called stolen valor. And then we have CIA UFO expert Hal Puthoff. Did you mention? And this is why this scam works for him. He only gives you half the story. Oh, Hal Puthoff is a CIA UFO expert. I don't know if that would be a factual statement. I don't think it is, but okay. Did you also mention that he's a high-ranking Scientologist who claimed in Scientology literature that he got remote viewing superpowers from taking Scientology classes, right? Oh, and then we have this Deep Prasad, the 26-year-old prodigy reverse engineering UFOs. Where is his evidence? Did you know that he said he's a quantum computer expert and his startup quantum computer company has millions of dollars in public investments? Then why is his office a P.O. box? He has no offices, no labs, no products. He's never shown proof of any of his claims. That's another one. And it just goes on and on and on with these guys. Oh, Michael Herrera was another one, right? Michael Herrera was another one that this guy platformed. And Michael Herrera told a great story, right? There goes that. Oh, I'm going to get pissed off by the end of the broadcast. Yeah. I saw a 300-foot UFO in the Indonesian jungle. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Because he interviewed this guy, didn't do any fact checking, didn't ask him for any evidence, didn't ask him for, this happened when you were with a whole unit, right, of people that were in your military unit. Can we talk to them and verify your story was true? Can we talk to your commanding officer of that unit? Oh, no, you didn't do that, did you, Jesse? Because that would ruin the good clickbait story. And look at how clickbait this is. I saw a 300-foot UFO in the Indonesian jungle. Really? Well, what about, like, the fact that your commanding officer, Michael Herrera, came out and said that this whole story never happened. You were never out of his sight. This whole story was a work of fiction. You made it up. And why doesn't Jesse Michael go back to his audience and do an update at least? That's the least you could do after you took all the money for the fake story, is do like a mea culpa and say, okay, that story that Michael Herrera told was completely fake because his commanding officer refutes everything in his story and said it's all fake. You know, that would be the fair thing to do. Why are you lying to your audience, Jesse Michaels? Why don't you grow a set of balls, be a man, and tell your audience when somebody came on your show and lied to them? Do you not have a responsibility to inform your audience, like, hey, listen, I'm sorry, we let this guy come on the show and he lied to all of you. So now I'm going to tell you the truth about that story. Don't you have a responsibility to do that or do something? when somebody comes on your show and lies to your audience, provably lies to your audience? What about Charles Hall? Are you going to show your audience the proof and the documents that I have that prove that Charles Hall was never in the military? Are you going to do that? Are you going to go back to your audience and say, listen, we let this guy come on my show and he lied to all of you? Well, Jesse can't do this because every other show would be, oh, the last guest lied to you all, audience. Sorry. And it's ridiculous that we live in a world where this kind of clickbait, garbage, sensational, so-called journalism, that's what is financially successful. Forget about the guy that spends 3 months meticulously researching a story and gives you the entire truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth about the story. No, let's reward the asshole that sits there like a fucking moron and pretends that he doesn't know that these people are full of shit. Let's give that guy all of the YouTube ad revenue. Let's give that guy all the money. It's absolutely ridiculous. This is for Ghost MW2 with $1 super chat. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. And Stormcrow says they never have any proof. No, and that's another thing. Maybe he should recognize for his audience that people have been making these kind of claims for 80 years, and never once has any of these people provided the proof of their claims. Never once. So before we begin with the videos that I have to share, mostly to show you what absolute ridiculous nonsense Mr. Michels platforms, I do want to put some things on the record. And so I've written this in advance to make sure that I make the points that I need to. The pseudo-intellectual alchemy of Jesse Michels, turning fringe fantasy into podcast gold in the crowded landscape of YouTube podcasters, chasing clicks and cosmic conspiracies. Jesse Michels stands out as a particularly egregious offender. As the host of American Alchemy, Michels, a former investor at Theo Capital, who traded venture capital in various positions himself, he positions himself as a bold explorer of, quote, heretical thinkers and ideas of our time, unquote. I think he should just say, I'm a bold explorer of lying scumbags that I can exploit for money. But beneath the slick production and breathless hype lies a platform that routinely amplifies evidence-free storytellers, sensational tall tales, hoaxes, and wild claims without a shred of rigorous scrutiny or any demand whatsoever for proof. Michels doesn't just platform these narratives, he revels in them, often failing to challenge guests or conduct the most basic rudimentary research that could separate fact from fiction. The result is a toxic brew of pseudoscience that misleads audiences while boosting his subscriber count. Take, for instance, Michels' episode with Kevin Knuth, a physicist and former NASA employee billed as a so-called whistleblower, who claims the agency systematically suppresses UFO data. Knuth spins yarns about UAPs, or UFOs, unidentified aerial phenomenon, or unidentified flying objects, interacting with nuclear assets, exhibiting flight capabilities that defy physics, and even debris analysis yielding exotic isotopes, all presented as concrete evidence. Yet where is this guy's verifiable proof? He has no documents, no peer-reviewed studies, no scientific data that he could show us that's reproducible to support his claims. He has no independently corroborated data. And none of that is dissected on air. Michels doesn't even acknowledge that he has no real proof. This is just his claims. And Michels, ever the enthusiastic scumbag host, nods along, hyping the physics-first framework without pressing for specifics or even acknowledging the lack of empirical backing. This, my friends, is not journalism. This is infotainment, where sensational claims like underwater bases, cattle mutilations, and 300-foot UFOs go completely unchallenged, leaving viewers with the illusion of revelation rather than the reality of unsubstantiated speculation. Michels' pattern of lax hosting and zero research extends to even more outlandish guests. One second. So he's also, interviewed Alex Jones, who's infamous for his evidence-free rants. And Jones got a soft landing on American Alchemy, where Michael's failure to fact check or challenge claims allows misinformation to flourish unchecked. And the podcast's foray into the so-called Nazca mummies, alleged alien bodies from Peru, exemplifies Michael's reckless platforming in an Michaels features guests accused by skeptics of being disinfo agents and peddling hoaxes. Posters on X warn that by giving airtime to these Nazca mummy figures without rigorous vetting, Michaels risks becoming a disinformation agent himself, knowingly or not. The mummies have been debunked by experts as composites of human and animal remains. Yet Michaels' promotional posts hype the mystery without mentioning the actual evidence that they're fake. I don't believe that this is accidental. For Michaels, this is a deliberate choice to prioritize sensationalism over substance. As one ex-user put it, Michaels ignores the enormous wealth of data and bigger picture in favor of overemphasizing debated details to create an aura of a greater mystery. His lack of research here is glaring. The most basic Google search would reveal the fraud of these Nazca mummies. Not to mention that these Nazca mummies originate from Jaime Maussan, a guy who's been caught in at least 50 different 100% provably fake hoaxes. But, actually doing any research or giving his audience the full story, that might kill the buzz. Even high-profile episodes like Michael's chat with Joe Rogan devolve into unchecked speculation about aliens, DMT, ancient civilizations, and three-fingered mummies. Rogan, no stranger to fringe topics, dives into claims of elite UFO disclosure, timed to information wars, but Michaels doesn't interject with demands for evidence or context from credible sources. Instead, he lets the conversation spiral into quantum computing, AI godhood, and more without grounding it in any verifiable facts. Listeners on platforms like Reddit lament his approach. He seems to be a delusional narcissist, said one Reddit poster, trying to sell his podcast at any cost. Others criticize Michaels for never digging deeper. Another user summed up the host's vibe. The fakeometer is maxed out so hard with him. He's so fake that I actually feel the urge to vomit every time I listen to his shows. Michael's defenders might argue that he's just exploring the nature of reality. But this rings hollow when his episodes constantly favor hype over actual research or homework. In discussions of MK Ultra, anti-gravity, and dystopian healthcare ties to UFOs, guests like Brigham Bueller make sweeping claims about chip implants and transcendent disconnects without proof, and Michaels simply amplifies them. No follow-up questions on sources, no cross-checking, no cross-referencing with established research, no fact-checking, nothing. This isn't bold inquiry. It's intellectual laziness masquerading as edginess. As one critic noted, he just lies and spouts these crazy, unevidenced theories. This is 100% performative. Another user added, he always speculates, though, and reports the speculation as if it's a fact. Whatever real stuff he finds is kind of tainted by his desperation for fame, clicks and views, and notoriety. Ultimately, American Alchemy exemplifies the worst of modern media, a platform that exploits public fascination with the unknown while shirking responsibility to verify or challenge literally anything on his show. Michael's lack of research and failure to demand any proof of his guests doesn't just platform charlatans, it actively contributes to a culture of disinformation, misinformation, and hoaxes. In an era where facts matter more than ever, his alchemical sleight of hand turns potential gold into fool's pyrite, leaving audiences dumber for the dazzle. If Michaels truly cared about heretical ideas, he'd start by heretically insisting on evidence. Until then, his podcast remains a cautionary tale in sensationalist grifting. All right, we'll take a moment to catch up with the live chat before we get into some of the videos. Yes, please do smash that like button. We would appreciate that. So Sam Corbin is here. Now it's a party. Welcome, Sam Corbin. Perfect Harmony says Jesse Michaels is totally gay for Thomas Townsend Brown. I seriously can't remember one show he's done without mentioning that guy. Well, the interesting thing is that, Thomas Townsend Brown never produced Anti-Gravity. Did he produce something called Ion Wind? Yes, but that's not anti-gravity. And Michaels confuses the two because he's an intellectual weakling and a moron. And honestly, I don't think he has enough brain cells to rub together to realize that ion wind and anti-gravity are worlds apart. It's not the same thing. It's totally different. There's no verifiable evidence or proof that Brown ever created any anti-gravity device. None whatsoever. Full stop. So I thought we would begin with a funny one that we have here. This is just the perfect example, right? Oh, let's start with the other one. Sorry, that one's still processing. You ever have one of those days? All right, we'll start. Oh, that one's not processed either. God damn it. Well, we're just going to have to show it the way that we can. Let me, first we'll put up our fair use banner. This is a transformative work. We're educating the public about what little research Jesse Michaels does and how he platforms complete and total frauds and liars, and he doesn't even check in. Maybe you ought to check in. Just see, is this guy a liar? Like the most basic research possible on Charles Hall. His story starts with, when I was in the Air Force. So maybe you should have checked if he was actually in the Air Force, but he didn't do that, right? He did not do that. Instead, he pretended that the guy was credible. One moment. Now I can share my screen. Suddenly now it's going to work. I never know how this. All right, let's get into it. One moment here. This is a transformative work. We're educating the public about Charles Hall, who is a stolen valor, fraud, fake Air Force veteran. And by the way, Charles Hall is always free to correct me. I asked him to give me his commanding officer's telephone numbers or contact information so that I could verify he was in the Air Force. He wouldn't do that. I asked him, why is the National Personnel Record Center not finding that you were in the Air Force? And he said, because I don't have a need to know. It's completely and totally ridiculous. And Michaels did none of the research that we've done. By the way, you can check a previous episode of our show here to see the 100% verifiable proof, but we'll show it to you again that this guy, Charles Hall, who Jesse Michaels, the moronic retard, just platformed and let tell his alien stories. And congratulations, Jesse Michaels made somewhere between, I don't know, 10, maybe 20 or $30,000 just off of this one interview. So if you want to make a lot of money, just sit there like a retard and pretend you don't know that this guy wasn't in the Air Force. Jesse Michaels did no research on this guy. He didn't vet him. He didn't check his military credentials, didn't bother to do any work before just interviewing him and showing up to get the money. So congratulations, Jesse. You've been very successful at being a useful idiot. And by the way, I don't often say this because I don't really like those kind of conspiracy-minded people that say this guy's CIA or this guy's this guy is a disinformation agent. Whether he's working for the CIA or whether he is just a useful idiot to the CIA and he doesn't even know that he's a bobo. Go ask somebody that's in the CIA who a bobo is. A bobo is somebody like Jesse Michaels, a moron that does their work for them by putting out completely and totally fake shit to obscure real research and muddy the waters. Can't get to the good stuff if you're just slopping through the slop for years trying to get to the real truth. You're not getting to the real truth when this guy is helping a proven decades-long stolen valor liar put out his fake alien stories. But see, Jesse Michaels doesn't care because he got tens of thousands of dollars for doing this. He doesn't care about the truth. He cares about the money.
You know, a lot of people I interview have had fleeting interactions in one-off instances. You know, they've been abducted by a gray, or they've, you know, interacted with a tall white or a Nordic. You've had years of interactions.
And I just want to say, like, maybe you could spend less time with the fancy editing and more time with actually fact-checking the things that your guests say, right? He spends more time on the editing. Well, he doesn't. He pays somebody to, right?
With all three, but mostly with the tall whites.
There was this giant white radioactive horse that
A
floated
giant white radioactive horse! This is getting good already!
around the ranges at night and was fluorescent. The extraterrestrials, when they come, even if they're your good friends, there's always a tension because they always come heavily armed.
Oh,
Today's
they're
amazing
heavily
guest on
armed
American Alchemy
aliens.
has seen the inside of a UFO. He's a first-hand witness to the collaboration between human beings and aliens from another world.
Oh, he's seen inside a UFO.
He's even made
And here he's using illustrations from the Holloman Air Force landing, which is another proven hoax. So congratulations, Jesse Michael, you complete and total fucking moronic retard. He's using images from a previous hoax that's been proven a hoax to power and illustrate the Charles Hall hoax that he's helping Charles Hall perpetrate.
an alien laugh. Charles Hall was in the Air Force. He was also
No, Charles Hall was never in the Air Force. He was never in the Air Force. Full stop, Jesse Michaels, you moron. Maybe you ought to spend more time researching and less time selling fake stories. He was never in the Air Force. We have the proof. And by the way, it's not just me. There's a researcher named Richard Cole, and there's another researcher. There's been at least 3 or 4 researchers that all did the same verification process. Charles Hall has no records in the National Personnel Records Office, and that proves that he was never in the Air Force. And there's also more and more evidence, Jesse, that he was never in the Air Force. The claimed weather observer school or class that he claims to attend at a certain year and base, we looked that up. You can go get the records on that. He wasn't in the class he claimed to be at that base at the year he claimed to be. He is a fraud, Jesse. So congratulations, you moron. Are you just so dumb that you got fooled by this moron? This moron that fooled such luminaries, right? As Paula Harris, hoax promoter, or Michael Salas, secret space jerk off, right? Well, you're in good company with those other 2 retards.
stationed at the notorious Area 51. While stationed there, he was in regular contact with an alien race that he calls the tall white.
How could you get this factually wrong? In his books, he claimed he was stationed at Nellis Air Force Base. Nellis Air Force Base is near Area 51, but it's not a part of Area 51. So this right here, including putting Area 51, shows that there was a deliberate attempt at deception in order to get more people to click on it. If you said, this guy met aliens at Nellis Air Force Base, it might get some views, but it's going to get more views if you say, this guy met aliens while he worked at Area 51. Show us the proof, Jesse, that he worked at Area 51. Is this new? I'm very familiar with this story. Maybe up until recently, he's always said that it was at Nellis Air Force Base where the aliens he met. He never said, I worked at Area 51. He never said, I met the aliens at Area 51. To my knowledge, I could be wrong. But if I'm not wrong, then this shows a deliberate intent to clickbait this, to get more views, get more eyeballs on it, get more stupid people to click on this so he can make tens of thousands of dollars selling a complete and total stolen valor fraud liar who was never in the Air Force.
It's for 2 years. This conversation is absolutely wild. There's a guy at NASA who has a deep interest in these sorts of things, experiencers. His name is Timothy Taylor. Have you heard of him by any chance?
Did you say Timothy Taylor?
Yeah.
Oh, he's a good friend of ours.
Yeah. all the wackadoos are friends. And did you hear who just chimed in there? That's his wife. And I have it on good authority that all of these stories are actually written by his wife. All of these stories are written by his wife, and then he plays the character that she portrays in the books, which they're works of fiction. And there's proof they're works of fiction, because why do you need a fake? Why do you have to have your husband pretend he was in the Air Force to sell these fake books about aliens?
We're going to be talking about aliens going to the bathroom, what powers a UFO, and theories of subatomic physics that overturn Einstein.
Okay, so in other words, all complete and total speculation, right?
Before we get into it, I want to introduce our guest, Charles Hall.
Yeah, and by the way, he does have pictures of him in the military, but he gets some things wrong. This picture in particular, he said was at a base in Vietnam. But there's some problems with this picture, because the base that he claims this picture was taken at in Vietnam never had any power poles. Do you see what's behind him? Power poles. So a military historian pointed out that this picture could not have been taken at the base that Charles Hall claimed it was taken at, because that base had no telephone pole power lines ever in its whole history. So where was this picture taken? I don't know. And why does he have old pictures of him in uniform? I really don't know. Some have suggested that he was in the ROTC in college or high school. That could be the case. Or maybe he was drafted into the Army or something for a short time in Vietnam, but he was never in the Air Force.
Hall enlisted in the U.S. Air Force in 1964 when he was just 19 years old. He trained as a weather observer.
No, he didn't. The weather observer class that he claimed that he attended has no record of him, Jesse. And you would know that if you actually did any research, but you didn't do any research. So this whole story has zero fact checking by you. Congratulations. And, you know, I think that Jesse should donate the money he made from this story to a charity, because this is basically stealing from consumers. You provided consumers with a completely dog shit fake story, and you made what, 20,000, 30,000? How much money did you make on this, Jesse?
Measuring wind speeds, cloud cover, and visibility. From 1965 to 1967, he was stationed at Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada. His job included long, isolated tours at the Indian Springs gunnery ranges. He was out in the desert doing routine weather observations.
Yeah, the government is colluding with aliens, but they just let a weather observer out right where the aliens were. Sure.
When he started noticing strange figures, tall, pale, glowing shapes moving at a distance. At first, he thought they were ghosts, or maybe hallucinations.
By the way, this tall white alien mythology has infected every inch of the UFO community. So you might hear 100 other morons talking about tall white aliens. Every one of them forgets to tell you that the whole originator of this tall white alien scam was a stolen valor fraud who was never in the Air Force.
Hallucinations brought on by solitude. Other observers had similar experiences. They called it the legend of range.
You gotta love that he puts a lot of books behind himself. Is that like to pretend that he's smart or something like that? I love people that do no research, putting a book background behind them, right? It's like, look, guys, look at all these books that I bought. I'm smart. Maybe you ought to start reading more books, Jesse. Like maybe on writing well, or like something to help your shitty show, because it is pathetic, man. Totally pathetic. Wreaking havoc with one for the gold. Saying the sad part is what Jesse is doing is ufology. Lying and grifting while cosplaying Fox Mulder online. I can't stand these losers. Why don't you tell us what you really think? And Jim Beck is here with one for the gold. A very kind and generous $20 super chat. For those unaware, we're a viewer-supported show. I'll read and thank every person who sends a super chat. I also want to take a moment to check in with the kick.com live chat. And we've got some people, some kind and generous folks over there to call out as well. So Super Money Fist resubscribed yesterday. You can subscribe or give subs even if we're not broadcasting live on Kick. And thank you for that. Thank you, Super Money Fist. They've been a subscriber for 1 month and they just resubscribed. So thank you for that. Excellent support only on Kick. Let's continue. Yeah, read some of those books behind you, moron.
For Harry, a ghostly radioactive horse roaming
Oh, there was that sounds plausible. There's a ghostly radioactive horse running around on this Air Force base.
the desert. One observer was even injured in an encounter with something and given a medical discharge. Others
Okay, so did you get those medical records? Did you interview that person that was injured by an encounter with something? No, then this is all just a story, a fake story, a very fake story, Mr. Michels.
flat out refused to return to the post. But Hall was very different. Something about who he was meant that he wasn't going to break like the others had. And
Yeah, again, this looks to me like an ROTC high school picture. That's just my take on it. These guys look awfully young to be in the Air Force. That's the one part of this story that I can't really explain. People have challenged me. Well, he's got pictures of him in a uniform. That doesn't mean he was in the Air Force.
both his
Could
command
have been an Air Force cadet. You know, I have pictures of myself in Navy uniforms from when I was in high school, and that's because I was in the Sea Explorers. That doesn't mean I was in the Navy. You know, checking with the National Personnel Records Center could show you that I wasn't in the Navy. Yet I still have pictures of myself in my younger years in a full-on Navy uniform, both a regular Navy uniform and a dress Navy uniform, because when we had these banquets, we had to wear a dress Navy uniform or something that looked almost exactly the same. Yeah, could be ROTC. He looks way too young there. That's what I'm thinking, right? That's how he became the King of Ireland. What? I don't know. Let's continue with the bullshit cavalcade. And look at this, 2 hours and 20 minutes of this. We're not getting through much of this. I can already.
and these tall white beings seemed to take notice. In this isolated crucible, he began slowly interacting with the tall whites. These beings would stalk him and test him, appear suddenly and vanish.
Yeah, and the government that's hiding the aliens just let a weather observer like hang out with the aliens constantly, because that makes sense.
Slowly gauging his reactions. But he eventually learned this unwritten language. And although there were some painful setbacks, he gradually developed a trust. He saw family groups, parents, children, elders. He would even end up referring to one of them as something like a brother. Hall claims that the tall whites lived in underground facilities at the north end of Indian Springs Valley.
Oh, sure they did.
Complete with hangars for their craft. A story bearing striking resemblance to that of Bob Lazar.
Oh,
he learned
sure,
about
yeah.
their different flying crafts.
This story is somewhat like this other fake scientist fraud. Like, this is the super duper prover maneuver. You get one guy that has absolutely no evidence and connect him to another guy that has absolutely no evidence. That's a complete and total fraud. Bob Lazar is a convicted pimp, fake scientist. He never worked at Area 51. His entire story is fake. So using one fake to prop up another fake, it really doesn't help. It really doesn't help, Jesse. This is called the super duper prover maneuver. Maybe you ought to try to get some fucking evidence instead of using one fraud hoaxer as evidence that the other fraud hoaxer is telling the truth. That is weak. And thank you, Lord Jammington. 6951. I feel we have had disclosure already, and it has been disclosed to be only grifters, xeno-believers, man-made flight platforms, and government grant hunters. I think that is pretty good, right? Those aren't official 1960s Air Force uniforms, says Garaji. Well, I'm not an expert in that. So, yeah, don't you know, says Caleb, he was given top secret clearance for no reason. Yeah. Jesse Michels might really be retarded, friends. I'm starting to think so. Like I said, there's only three possibilities. Either he's doing this on purpose for the money, or he's the stupidest, laziest UFO guy on planet Earth, or he's retarded. Those are the three possibilities. And none of those three paint Jesse Michels as anything but, either mentally challenged or a scumbag.
And as you'll see in our conversation, what he saw comports with much of what we've learned about UAPs since 2017. But the tall whites were not the only alien race described in this story. Hall has talked about the Greys, The small, frail, large-headed humanoids that match the classic Roswell image.
The tall white technology was better than the technology of the Greys.
Oh, his aliens were better than the Roswell aliens. Okay.
But the Greys come from a planet that's closer than the planet the tall whites come from.
Here, Jesse Michels is showing us another hoax to back up that this story is true. If this story is true, how have you included 3 hoaxes already? Jesse Michels has included imagery, illustrations, or talking points from 3 proven hoaxes. We're only 4 minutes in. Is this what you call evidence, Jesse Michels? 1 hoax to back up another hoax? Trolly troll troll with 1 for the goal. Oh no, Trolly Troll Troll says, hey, the tall whites are Charles Hall's IP, don't you know? Yeah. This is so stupid. 4 minutes in, we're up to 3 hoaxes to back up this guy's hoax.
And the Greys got here first.
And then there are the Nordics, what you'll hear Hall refer to as the Norwegians with the 24 teeth. Hall described them as more patient, more diplomatic, even benevolent compared to the tall whites.
Isn't it always awesome that the ones that look the most like us are always the good guys, and like the reptilians are the evil ones, or the Greys are the evil?
Some of them could pass among humans in the public, sometimes blending into crowds. There is no end to the speculation about how these alien species, who Hall suggests have been here for thousands of years,
He said one thing right. This is all speculation.
might have interacted with humanity's evolution or social development. If all of this sounds crazy, well, yeah, I don't blame you. And trust me, we've only scratched the surface here. I personally don't even know what to make about this conversation. There are things...
Yeah, well, this is where it gets me. Like, yeah, when you have somebody making incredibly crazy claims, don't you think the first thing you should do is verify what you can verify about what that person is saying? Like, verify that he was in the Air Force? And I don't mean verify by taking a fake document he gives you and just accepting it. You have a staff. Couldn't you hire somebody to authenticate the documents he showed you, the pictures he showed you?
Charles Hall is about to say that feel beyond the pale to me. So that's my primer for you. Without further ado, please welcome this week's amazing American alchemist,
American bullshittist,
Charles Hall. Today's episode...
Oh, okay, you gotta do the ad read and sell some shit, right?
With, a lot of people I interview have had fleeting interactions in one-off instances. They've been abducted by a gray, or they've, interacted with a tall white or a Nordic.
Yeah, well, if you're going to be a successful hoaxer, you got to up the ante. So he didn't just have a fleeting interaction. He had daily interactions with aliens for years.
You've had years of interactions with...
Notice he didn't say allegedly. He just states it as a fact. You've had years of experiences with these aliens. That's a statement of fact without any facts and evidence to support it being a fact, Jesse. That's disingenuous. It's deceptive. It's manipulative.
3, but mostly with the tall whites, and I really want to dive into that. But first, I want to talk about your Hall photon theory. You believe that Einstein is wrong and has limited physics.
Oh, yeah. Well, this guy's definitely a genius. He's smarter. This is where the story gets crazy. So not only is Charles Hall a fake Air Force veteran, but now he's claiming that he knows the real truth about physics and that Einstein was wrong about a lot of physics, but he's right.
Stagnated it for the last century. And so let's get into that.
I'm quite certain Einstein was wrong. And I've also written books entitled Beyond Relativity, and I've done a Rumble video entitled...
Oh, a Rumble video. That's how you know it's credible.
Mirage Galaxies and Edges in Space. Edges is spelled with capital letters because it's a zone. And I've also done a second...
So this is the pseudoscience mumblings, right?
Film with Emil Marzak, which discusses that, called Walking with the Tall Whites aftermath, and I've also
He's got a whole industry around him. Yeah, that's all
copyrighted, the Hall
copyrighted.
photon theory.
It's all
I first
copyrighted. It's his intellectual property, don't you know?
copyrighted Hall photon theory in 1997, and I'm quite certain that there are many more particles, subatomic particles, and many more types of force fields
There's force
which
field.
exist in the real world.
Yes, this chap says
And
like a
that's
real
why
deal.
relativity
Sure
is
does,
not
right?
correct, because relativity doesn't take those into
It's his
account.
own thing.
And for context
he
for
is
the
an
audience,
expert in it. Yeah.
You are extremely smart. You have a master's degree in nuclear physics, and you scored off the charts on one of these math tests before joining the Army.
By the way,
and so
I was in the Air Force.
Did you verify his education before showing that degree? Did you do that, Jesse? Did you verify that he really has that degree?
And what you say is correct. I got 1 wrong out of 500 on the Air Force math ability test. It was the one I was marking as I was marking the correct answer as the clock had sounded, and they were ripping the answer sheet from my cold hands. If they'd just given me 10 more seconds, I'd have got them all.
He has a pen in his
That's
pocket,
amazing.
a pocket
You
protector.
told
Therefore,
me
he's
off there
smart.
that what inspired this Hall photon theory was you actually seeing a craft and realizing it could go faster than light. So you were stationed at Area 51.
That's correct. Well, I was a weather observer in the U.S. Air Force, and I was stationed at Nellis Air Force Base from March of 1965 until
your audience, right? And unverifiable photos.
May of 1967. And Nellis is in charge of the gunnery ranges at Indian Springs, and I was a duty weather observer at Indian Springs.
Well, here's where it gets, I hate to be a nitpicker, but you just said you worked at Area 51, and then he immediately says, I worked at Nellis Air Force Base. Nellis Air Force Base is near Area 51, but it's not Area 51.
Area 51 is just in the 1965 was just the entry area to the areas, and the areas went up to number 60, and I've been in all of them. The areas were assembled
Okay, he said he's been in Area 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, and 60.
Into lands. The most famous land was Dreamland. Area 51 was not actually Dreamland itself. It was merely Groom Lake. Dreamland,
I think an Area 51 expert would refute what he said.
Land was Area 53 and 54, which was the northern half of Indian Springs Valley, and then the valley to the east, Dogbone Valley,
54.
and part of the valley to the west, including French Peak.
It's better than Area 51.
The biggest shock was not that extraterrestrials were here on Earth, and had been ever since at least
they
the
know
Ice
he was a fake Air Force. He'll never
The
test.
biggest shock that I felt was discovering that Einstein was wrong about relativity. The craft that the Tall Whites and the Greys came in, the Roswell Greys came in, could easily exceed the speed of light.
Again, statements of facts with no facts to support these being facts. This is just his story, his speculation. Oh, the craft could go faster than the speed of light. How did you know that? How do you know that?
By many times. The Tall White technology was better than the technology of the Greys, but the Greys come from a planet that's closer than the planet the Tall Whites come from.
How does he know that?
And the Greys got here first. So I would guess that 90%
a lot of his
time
statements are unfalsifiable. In other words, I can't prove that what he's saying is a lie, but he can't prove that what he's saying is true. So these statements are just worthless because they can't be verified or disproven.
That you see an actual extraterrestrial craft, it's one of the gray craft, and about 10% of the time it's one of the Tall White craft. And the Greys are much more numerous for that reason. I remember the
Okay, so there's more gray aliens than white aliens. Great.
Shock when I really, truly understood that Einstein was wrong about relativity. I was out at Range 3, and as the duty weather observer,
What year is this?
And this was in the mid 1960s. This was like in 1965, late summer.
Wow, he was meeting those aliens way back in 1965.
And there was a 6-week or 2-month period where I was certain that the tall white individuals who identified themselves as the teacher and Range 4 Harry and tour
Yeah,
guide, who were my good
little
friends,
goofy guy.
that they had taken a vacation or a business trip somewhere and that they weren't on this planet and that they had gone to some other inhabited planet orbiting some other star. A reasonable guess would have been the star Arcturus or a star near Arcturus.
Oh, Arcturus.
Then
That's where
they came back.
Okay.
I believe they'd been on a business trip / vacation type trip.
Oh yeah, the
Well,
aliens were on
Arcturus is
vacation.
36 light years away, and the nearest star, Alpha Centauri, is almost 4 light years away. It's a group of 3 stars. And to go anywhere and come back to another star, the craft you were on had to travel quite a few times faster than the speed of light, like 44 times or something minimum, just to go there and come back in 2 months.
I think a lot of people in the audience might hear that they're coming back and forth from, a star system that is 36 light years away and want to know some core details as to what you are seeing. Do you see crafts coming in, and what did the crafts look like?
On the night of the the night of the full moon, or a few days before or a few days after. But their base at the north end of Indian Springs,
and conveniently the base is underground, so nobody could see it on satellite maps.
They were using Dogbone Lake as their landing field.
What do the crafts look like?
Like Tic Tacs.
Like Tic Tacs?
Yeah, like eggs.
He said Tic Tacs first. He meant Tic Tacs.
Like white eggs. They were egg-shaped.
Are they of the kind of, David Fravor 2004, the Nimitz sighting, where you have
the Tic Tac is the UFO story that will never
die. Tic Tac?
Everybody tacks on. And, that's one part of the hoax, right? Oh, people already believe in Tic Tacs, so I'll say that the ship was shaped like the Tic Tac.
Or was it like the egg that Jake Barber or, Socorro, New Mexico, 64, those are two different shapes, or both shapes?
When I first saw them, it reminded me the most of like a large version of the engine of a passenger train, only with everything rounded like an egg.
The alien looked like a train, but it was rounded. Okay.
There were no sharp edges, no sharp protrusions, just smooth and round like a round. It was ellipsoidal, okay?
Any hieroglyphics or symbols?
Not on the outside. When you went on, their writing is hieroglyphics.
Oh, they write in hieroglyphics.
More so.
Great.
They're
more unverifiable bullshit.
Writing, if you didn't know Egyptian hieroglyphics, a couple of the guys that were with me who had seen them thought that they were ancient Egyptians who had somehow or another gotten into Indian Springs Valley and trapped there and were still using their own hieroglyphics.
Oh, yeah. People thought it was ancient Egyptian.
A couple of the other range men, yeah.
Interesting.
And they can stand right there in front of you. I speak from direct experience. And if they feel like talking to each other using sounds too high for a human to hear,
so they have a higher vocal range.
And if you didn't know better, you'd think they were able to do telepathy, because they'll be sitting there in total silence and one will laugh, and then they'll be going through a complete conversation. And of course, their electronics also are able to tell what a person is thinking.
Oh, so they have mind reading devices. Great.
And to put thoughts in the conscious part of their mind.
It's getting thick in here.
By electronic means.
Has he said anything that can be verified so far? No. But he has said things that can be verified as false, like he went to weather observer school, like he enlisted in the Air Force.
Why do you think that?
From direct experience. Okay.
Did they have a device that could implant thoughts
Yeah, only it wasn't a big device that they had to carry in their hands. It was one that they'd carry like on a helmet or whatever, you know.
They had mind control helmets.
And what's the broader context here? Are you sort of this rogue Air Force rangeman, or do the other rangemen and superiors, are they aware of this ET presence coexisting alongside you guys at this testing complex? And is it sort of there's just this kind of awareness that there's this cohabitation there?
The Pentagon had a tiny handful of people that that interacted with them. The range maintenance men, a few knew they were there, but most of them just knew about the legend of Range 4 Harry. The legend of Range 4 Harry was that there was this giant white radioactive horse that floated around the
There's a giant white radioactive horse and it's floating around the bases, guys.
ranges at night and was fluorescent, and supposedly was a horse that had gotten too close to the bomb blast at Yucca Flats,
Oh,
and you'd see him on
Poor
warm
horse.
summer nights from a distance, and you could stay, but you needed to stay away from him.
Mm.
And he was called Range 4 Harry. Now, there was an actual tall white guy with the name Range 4 Harry. And the tall whites, when they were wearing their protective suits, could form up into
Oh, they
a
have protective suits.
high-speed horse formation. Like if there were
They
a
could turn into a
typical one
horse.
is if there were two women, a couple, three kids, children, and two men, the two women would be in front and bend over and at the waist
The
and
aliens are
bend
just
forward
over.
and put their arms out like that, some usually, and they would be the front of the horse. And then the three children would
The aliens are turning
the-
into a
whatever their
horse.
suits, the technology of them allowed them to
And
float.
look at Michels sitting next to him, just like, oh yeah, this sounds totally plausible. The aliens bent over and they turned into a horse. Batcat returns with one for the goal. Yes, I agree with you 100%. Old liars are the worst kind of liars, says Batcat returns. He's getting awfully close to the pearly gates to be telling Porky's St. Peter will have words for Mr. Hall. I agree. And Anime Chris, longtime show supporter, is here with one for the goal. And thanks, Batcat Returns, also for being a YouTube channel member, as well as Anime Chris. The white aliens are probably his doctors, and the Tic Tacs are probably the pills they were trying to shove down his throat to stop the hallucinations. Yes, I agree with you. This guy sounds like a lunatic. I was in the Air Force and the aliens turned into a horse.
They're 10 inches off the ground. They could float a lot higher if they wanted to, but they had to balance themselves. And the children would float, whose suits were a slightly different design, would float higher so that they were floating at about the waist level. So you'd have the two women in front and the three children. Then at the back, you'd
The
have
women,
the two men
four of them transformed into an alien horse.
Had bigger suits and more powerful packs, and they would bend over the children. So if you saw them,
They were bending over the children. That does not sound good, friends.
when they were out in the desert, say a quarter mile away, when they all turned on their suits, the force fields from around those suits
Oh, they have force fields too. Okay.
merged into one. And I speak from direct experience. You would swear there was a giant white floating horse coming at you from out in the desert.
Okay, so the floating white giant horse that everybody was seeing was actually aliens that transformed themselves into a giant floating white horse.
Now, that horse could, when they were in that formation, the reason I call it the high-speed horse formation is because
Totally scientific. The aliens transformed into the high-speed horse formation.
I personally watched them when they wanted to go somewhere when they were out hiking, say and they wanted to go somewhere fast.
Aliens are big hikers, apparently.
They could form up into that formation and they could reach speeds of 100 miles an hour over the desert while floating up above the
100-mile-an-hour alien horse, friends. This is totally believable.
the ground and just going zoom. Used to watch them play at the runways at Indian Springs Air Base on summer nights as the way tobogganists did, where they would pretend they were airplanes taking off, and then when they got to the end, they would lift up and go over the fence around the runway and go out in the desert and turn around and pretend they were airplanes doing touch and goes.
Why do you think they were allowed?
I don't
to
think he was
operate
ever in the Air Force.
independently
If he
on
was, the
kind of
records would be
American
at the National
military
Personnel Records Center.
grounds?
They're not.
So the
The
superiors were
base,
kind of
the
unaware,
base
or-
for them was like a foreign
Yes, he
embassy.
knows it's all BS and he doesn't
They
care.
were-
He's
and,
doing
uh,
it to get attention.
And
make
they've
money.
been here since the Ice
Yeah.
Age.
Do you think it was
no-
the nuclear testing that like created some sort of Wheeler tunnel or something that they
Through the
traveled
desert
through? Like,
on a
why
horse
there?
with no
Why do you
name.
think they
Well, alien
set
horses
up
don't
shop
have
there?
names.
Consider, I'm certain that the Greys
horse's
got
name
here
was
first and they
Peyote.
were here before the last Ice Age, and that the Tall Whites got here
Damn those
second,
alien
and they were
kids,
here by
always
at
playing on
least
the
the
runway.
middle of the
Yes.
last Ice Age. And the Norwegians with 24 teeth got here towards the end of the last Ice Age.
Oh, the Norwegians
The
have
Tall
24
Whites
teeth.
have the
Good
best
detail.
technology. The Greys
His aliens
have
have the
really
best
good
tech,
technology.
yes.
The Norwegians are just barely able to travel in space and make it here. When you look at the bases and where the Tall Whites
The
and
horse
the
had a name,
Greys
but it's
are, you
unspeakable
have to
by
look
your
at the
tongue.
way they were in the Ice Age.
They had LSD.
There's a
for
place
LSD.
out in the deserts that I was in. It's out in one of the most desolate sections of
Yes,
the
24.
western deserts that you can imagine. There's a
white.
L-shaped valley with mountains on desert mountains on both sides, and then there's a valley on the northern side. But in the southern side, the valley is an L-shaped valley, and there's a dry lake bed, a small dry lake bed on the southern side, and a huge amphitheater type set of ground that the Greys farmed during the Ice
Oh,
Age.
great story. They were
And
farming.
in the mountain on the west,
Yes.
they'd cut 13 tunnels in the mountain on the west,
13.
and they used them
Wow.
as a granary. And the one on the north, the
Were they
first
making
one on
pure
the
with
north,
rain? Like,
was
what?
larger than the others, and it was large enough for their deep spacecraft to come in and pick up grain. And the 13th one overlooked.
Aliens need to somehow, they need to come, 36 light years to go farm grain on Earth. Sounds totally plausible.
Fields, and when at the top of the L-shaped
false
valley and at the bottom of the
No, I think
L-shaped
he's a
valley,
scammer.
the mountains form
Seems
a
harmless.
constriction. So if you were a gray teenager with a
Yes.
appropriate weapon and you were sitting there, you could monitor both entrances. And so if any Ice Age animals came in to eat the grain, because they're plant eaters, the Tall Whites and the Greys do not eat meat, they're only plant eaters, you could keep them out and protect keep them from eating your food. And when you asked, and when you looked at the valley on the west,
stop those pesky humans.
you could see the ancient water line
vegetables
from how high the lake had been during different stages of the Ice Age. Now, central Nevada was never glaciated.
Clearly,
it was only.
I agree.
It was just that in the Ice Age, because the weather was different, it rained lots and lots, like it does in Kentucky. And so those dry.
Doesn't it sound like it's like an awful lot of useless, unimportant details? That's the hallmark of a liar telling a story.
Those lake beds were
useless, too much useless details.
Not glacial lakes. They weren't glacial carved. They were palluvial lakes.
Yeah, the
Latin word for rain. And therefore, the bottom, those lake beds were flat, and the land leading into them were perfect places to farm.
Well,
and what you were looking at.
That's what Jesse is offering people. He's offering people a fake reality to escape to. And if people presented these stories as fiction, I would have no problem with it. But the fact that they pretend that these stories are real, and especially when the person telling the story is a stolen valor fraud, go ask somebody who was really in the Air Force how they feel about this guy pretending he was in the Air Force so he could sell alien stories. They would say he's a scumbag, and I
It
would
was a
agree with
granary, a farm that the Greys used during the Ice Age.
So it sounds like there are all these unique reasons as to why,
where
as
the
an
onion on
extraterrestrial presence,
what?
you'd set up shop in that area. This is a really interesting point. Something I kept coming back to while preparing for this conversation
Oh yeah,
was this strange possibility of what if Area 51's weirdness didn't start because it's a military base? What if the base was put there because of a pre-existing weirdness?
what if? So this is all speculative nonsense, Jesse? Is that what you're saying? And you have no evidence or proof of any of this shit? Yeah, I think that's what you're saying, Jesse.
In the region. As Charles points out, the broader pattern is hard to ignore. Many of the most restricted military ranges and test sites sit in the same kind of landscapes: remote deserts, mountain valleys, and high plains, and sometimes Native American burial grounds. Sure, there are practical reasons.
Oh, you got to bring in the Native American Native American graveyards, man. That's where the spookies part comes in.
For this when it comes to testing weapons and spy planes, but often these places were tied up in UFO sightings, cryptid creatures, electromagnetic anomalies before military bases were even placed on them.
And there's no actual proof of any of that, just stories, Jesse. But you forgot to tell your audience that because you're a scumbag.
Many were even seen to be portals to other dimensions. Maybe it isn't just a coincidence. Maybe the military wasn't just picking up empty land, but claiming ground that was very unusual. To put it bluntly, maybe military bases often like to co-locate themselves.
Maybe. Is it possible? Anybody remember Ancient Aliens? Is it possible? They said, is it possible 100 times an episode. That's what he's doing here. He's trying to fill in the blanks with more spooky details.
With very strange paranormal areas. Skinwalker Ranch in northeastern Utah
Which
is
is
perhaps the
fraud.
most public example. I've been there myself, and you've no doubt heard the stories. It's probably the most scientifically studied paranormal hotspot in the world, at least on the civil side. Multiple UFO sightings, glowing orbs, cattle mutilations, and even reports of orange portals opening up in the air. But it also has its former military connection. There was a U.S. Army outpost in the region in the 19th century, and today it sits not far from Dugway Proving Grounds. In the 2000s, billionaire and government contractor Robert Bigelow received Pentagon funding through the OSAP program.
And he wasted $22 million.
Why, you might ask? Well,
because he wanted to study werewolves and dino beavers, and he wasted $22 million of taxpayer money, Jesse. Why don't you tell your audience the truth? He wasted $22 million and has no proof of anything. Yeah, why don't you tell your audience the truth?
Folklore from the Utah tribe had already marked the land as cursed, prowled by shapeshifters. That was long before the Pentagon made it a research site. And if you zoom out, the geography is interesting too. You can draw a rough triangle between Area 51, Skinwalker Ranch, and Roswell.
Yeah, that's called a coincidence.
Other paranormal hotspots with co-located military activity exist all over the United States. For example,
he has no proof of this.
Sedona, Arizona. Local legends speak of tunnels and gateways.
Do you know the difference between legend and fact?
Hidden in the cliffs.
Oh, citing News Nation. Oh, yeah, that's just the epitome of factual research, News Nation.
Where star people pass through shimmering portals.
It's called mythology, you moron.
Bradshaw Ranch there became famous for UFO sightings, investigated not long ago by Ross Coulthart.
Ross Coulthart. That's another person that Jesse is friendly with. Did you tell everybody? Did you tell your audience that Ross Coulthart is a completely and totally discredited, fired, some say, journalist? He got fired for producing fake stories about the British Parliament. Allegedly been fired. His contract not renewed. I'm sorry, I always get corrected. They didn't fire him. They just didn't renew his contract. Yes, because he got caught selling a completely over-sensationalized fake story about the British Parliament being child predators, members of the British Parliament. He wrecked whole men's lives with completely and totally fake story that 60 Minutes basically later admitted was fake. He couldn't get a real job, so he started selling fake alien stories to morons. Did you tell your audience that Ross Coulthart got caught selling multiple fake stories since he entered the UFO space? 100% he has been caught verifiably selling fake stories. No, let's just throw in Ross Coulthart. It makes our story look like more credible. No, it makes you look like a moron that does no research.
Eventually, the site was taken over by the US government, a move that raised some eyebrows. Why seize a random rural property in Arizona unless there was something they felt needed securing? To this day, locals still report
government secures and takes over land constantly. Not I don't know how many years ago now, but they expanded the no-go zone around Area 51.
black helicopters circling overhead.
Oh, you got to put in the black helicopters
drones near the area. It fits the pattern. Land fenced off, not just for practical reasons.
Man, this is some speculative nonsense, Jesse Michels. Boy.
Because of whatever it is said to be.
And you got to realize that all this speculation is piled on top of a fake Air Force veteran telling ridiculous alien stories about aliens transforming into a fucking horse and floating and going 100 miles an hour. All this speculation is piled on top of that. Great job, Jesse Garbage Peddler Michels.
In the land itself. Land that seems full of electromagnetic anomalies. And perhaps the same tunnels and land.
Here we go. Perhaps, maybe. Is it possible?
That are occupied by the tall whites. And that brings us back to Nevada. It's easy to forget that Area 51 isn't just one base. It's part of a vast test range anchored by Nellis, swallowing up thousands of square miles of desert. Charles gets
useless desert look
into this in just a moment, but the history
test aircraft though
of how this whole area ended up getting claimed by the government doesn't quite add up, especially when it became a herd of desert sheep suddenly becoming an issue of national security. And it begs the very important question: how much of this pattern extends overseas? Look at where the United States has planted some of its overseas bases.
What are we up to? Like 5 minutes of complete and total speculation from a moron with no facts, no evidence to back any of this speculation up.
Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean, Pine Gap in outback Australia, sprawling compounds in Iraq and Afghanistan. Some of these sites.
Let's pile spooky stuff about American bases on top of Charles Hall's fake stories. You realize like how ridiculous this is. He just sat there and said nothing while a guy said that 4 aliens transformed into a fucking horse and floated above the desert at 100 miles an hour. And now somehow he's trying to bolster that wackadoo's claims by talking about spooky US based stuff. Like, you're not helping your case here.
Already had their own unusual reputations amongst locals, or maybe some other uses to our alien visitors from out of town. Do you think it's a coincidence then that you get Area 51 and some of the most top secret advanced R&D when it comes to the American military co-located on that area?
I subscribe to the Marine Corps theory. If it happened once, it would be a coincidence. If it happened twice, if it was happened once, it would be random. If it happened twice, it would be a coincidence. But the third time you see it's there, somebody planned it.
Land for
people. Yeah,
they do.
Now, remember what else is out there.
Maybe, perhaps, possibly.
Desert Game Range National Park.
I feel myself getting dumber watching that. Now, we're all getting dumber.
Desert Game Range was set up in the time of Franklin D. Roosevelt. Okay, it was I talk about in my book, and it was like 1935 or 1937.
Remember for 7 months.
For some reason, FDR just shut up all by himself, and after talking with a single Army Air Force colonel, decided that the desert bighorn sheep who live in the mountains like Sheep Peak, for which it's named, and the mountains to the east must be an endangered species. You say, wait a minute, this is 1937. I didn't realize we had endangered species till 1970 or something. No, this was 1937, and by executive order said, we got to make that a protected area to protect the desert bighorn sheep.
Well, the government's going to come up with any excuse they want to do a land grab. It's
They're
in their
white.
interests.
And if you're out there hiking and you see something, in the words of the park rangers, that looks like a human looking at you from over the sagebrush, which
Yes,
may be as
and
tall as
thanks for
6
being a
feet,
member. Yeah, I feel like
don't
that's
look
my own,
back,
just
especially
about.
if it looks like a woman with children, because the bighorn sheep don't like that. They'll attack.
I am still on blood thinners, which I'm not 100% sure. My doctors say they don't cause like they don't cause energy loss or lethargy or you to be tired, but I beg to differ because since I got out of the hospital, I've been on these blood thinners, and it seems like on days that I forget to take it in the morning, I have a much better day when I take it later in the day or at night, or even just forget to take it. But the days where I take it, seems like that those blood thinners make me weak and just not as energetic, I guess. I don't know. But other than that, I'm feeling pretty good.
You.
Trying to get more rest to compensate.
Just look away and walk away. And in 1937, in order to protect the sheep, and that we're talking before World War II,
Yes, random women.
Franklin Roosevelt and the Army Air Force decided that they would station
I
a
agree.
battalion
I think
of
so. My doctor says no.
anti-aircraft guns
He's
with
adamant that I
live
take it every day in the morning.
to
He's
protect
adamant.
it. Okay? So in case so it wouldn't be subject to
I'm not
Japanese air
getting paid
attack.
because I
It
mentioned
was
how
all
poor
that
I am.
specific
Well,
area.
in that specific area, right? And that was the desert
This
big
guy
one.
talks
Before there
forever.
was an Area 51,
The only
before there
endangered
was
species are
a
his brain
Nellis Gunnery
cells.
Range,
Yes.
before there was a Camp Mercury or anything, there was the Desert Southwest Game Range.
So that's the first
And
time
you
there.
say that
Yeah, I'm getting
so
blood
the
work next
sheep are
week.
being protected by anti-aircraft crews that have live ammo, and they're open to fire at any airplane that goes across there in 1937.
If
And
you say so.
FDR just said, well, I want the sheep to be safe. And that's why it's called Sheep Peak.
Wow.
And you say, when you look at it, Sheep Peak seems like a pretty easy place to climb.
Sheep Peak.
Why is it that the first time, it is a matter of record that it was climbed, that anyone climbed it, was 1970? Okay. You say, well, wait a minute, we did Mount Everest before that, right?
Well, it sounds like, protecting sheep with, anti-aircraft technology, the most advanced at the time.
Well, it seems like if you'd fire a few live rounds, wouldn't you kind of scare them a little bit, right? Yeah.
So based on your rule, if it's like, fool me once, okay, fool me twice, fine. Fool me 3 times, it's that's sort of a, it's not a coincidence anymore.
Yeah.
What's the second time? Is there a second time before Area 51, which gets set up in the 50s, that suspicious military or covert activity occurs in the region that might have to do with the ET presence?
Well, remember how
More
good their
speculation.
technology is.
More
the technology of the
speculation.
Hoyts and the technology of the Greys. And I do not exaggerate. I speak from direct experience. When you say if they came here in the Ice Age, and they're plant eaters, and in order to get a little help with harvesting grain and doing manual labor and
here we go.
things
They
like that,
bioengineer humans.
there's
to
nobody
help
out in
them farm.
Nevada. Where would they get that from? Remember how good their technology is. And I speak from direct experience. If they wanted to use the scout craft,
Say
which
so,
is, the tall white scout craft or the gray scout craft, both of which I've personally seen. And in the time I've been talking,
That's funny, salty
if
pug.
they wanted to, say, lift off from the backyard and go
More
to the
theoretical
moon
nonsense.
and circumnavigate the moon to check up on what's going on the far side of the
No, I think he
moon
lives in a house with his
and
wife.
return and land in the backyard right here, they would have already done so. That's how good their technology is. One of the things I personally watched them do from a distance, because if you get too close, the fields will burn you like a microwave.
The fields of the aliens will burn you. And we've got Humboldt Honey. It's one for the goal. And thank you, Humboldt Honey, for two things. The one for the goal and for being a YouTube channel member. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support of the show. It is much, much appreciated. Humboldt Honey, hearing the call of the goal. And I haven't checked in with the goal. We're at 8 of 20, and the goal ends in 1 hour or so, a little more than an hour. All right, we'll continue here. And I have the proof that Charles Hall is a complete and total fraud. We'll be sharing that with you as well before the broadcast ends.
But like from a distance of, say, like 2.5, 3 miles, was to go onto the scout craft and sit down in the seats, no seat belts or anything, just chairs like this, and power up the
The aliens, they don't believe in seatbelts?
not the outer coils, but just the bottom and control coils, and lift off until they were floating perhaps as far off the desert or above the sagebrush as the height the camera is, and then take a few seconds, like 30 seconds, to power up completely the outer coils.
Listen, look at Jesse. Just look at
seconds to do so.
Well, this sounds
When
totally
they do
real.
so, before they do so, the craft looks the way you're expecting. If you saw a helicopter out there, you'd see the actual metal of the helicopter. But after they've powered up, they just look real fuzzy white, like a Tic Tac, because they're surrounded with force fields. You no longer see the actual metal, you just see the force field and the way it's fuzzing over light and interacting with it. Once they're powered up, they're ready for high-speed maneuvers.
Let's get into
If they choose to go straight down the line of sight, they can go 7 miles at an average speed of 8,000 to 12,000 miles an hour, stop, power down, and set down. And in the process, they would have taken more than
why doesn't he have any pictures of any of this?
15,000 Gs starting and 15,000
Yeah, I've seen
Gs
aliens.
stopping.
Maybe I ought to take some pictures of their
Sitting there in a room like this. And in case you're wondering how much that is, 10,000 Gs will liquefy steel.
Is the speed of light is like 86,000 miles per hour?
186,000
okay.
miles per second.
Miles per second.
And they can do,
So if they're going 8 to 10,000 miles per hour, there's still massive difference between that and
they're not even in low
speed of light.
gear. They're not even in low gear.
Yeah, not even in low gear. Wow.
If they do that and they choose to go sideways, they'll just seem to blink out. You'll be looking there and they'll just seem to disappear before your eyes, because they will have accelerated and moved to the side so fast your eyes can't follow. I speak from direct experience. And if you're looking up and straight up Indian Springs Valley and they choose to pop over to Dogbone Valley and come down and then come in one of the northern passes to see what you're doing, it'll look like they just blinked out there and magically reappeared over there less than a second or two later if they were in the hands of a skilled pilot.
Like a lot
of people who still believe in Einstein will mistakenly say they went to another dimension. Really, they haven't. They've done it. If you were in the way, the craft would run into you. There is no such thing as wormholes or warping space and time. What you're warping isn't space and time.
Yes.
You're interacting with other force fields that are all matter has.
Again,
and, the same way that you might have an electric field of different shapes or a magnetic field of different shapes. But time never slows down. Time never runs in reverse. Time is just time. It always goes forward.
Time never slows down.
Yes.
Time slows down relative to speed, you moron. Again, this guy's saying he's smarter than Einstein, and he just said time never slows down. No, time is relative to your speed. There's a reason why on the International Space Station, for instance, they have to reset the clocks, because the clocks run faster because of the speed that they are orbiting the Earth. He just said speed isn't relative, or time isn't relative, time doesn't slow down. That is a completely and totally factually inaccurate statement. You think Jesse would stop him and say, excuse me, you just totally lied to my audience? No, just let him lie to your audience, Jesse. Go on, get the money and run, Jesse. Get the money and run, you moron.
A couple of times I did.
What was that like?
Well, I was in the cargo hold at the time because there was, as I describe in my books, the
I
day
was riding around the
after I
alien
thought I'd
spaceship cargo
broken
hold.
my kneecap and then it healed up, there was the next morning when they came down to get me and take me up to
Some
their
fraud
base
boomer who's not keeping up
up
with
at
the
Area
science. Yeah.
54, 53 to see if I needed a surgery on my knee.
And was it the tall whites?
Yeah, and when I got up there, the American generals were there and medical
Well, I don't
people
have
were
a
up there too.
PhD, but I do
And I
know that
didn't.
time
I
is
just
relative.
bruised it.
Go Google it. Does time move faster on the International Space Station, or does time move faster relative to the speed of and acceleration that you're at? And the answer is yes, it does. So he just said time doesn't slow down. This guy's supposed to have a degree in physics. I don't believe he does. That's just my opinion. Until proven otherwise, and maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll look deeper into Charles Hall's claims. Tim Curley with one for the goal, saying, "Great topic, Stephen. I arrived late today because of work, but I will watch it from the beginning." Good replay crew, and thanks for being a YouTube channel member. This guy has a space PhD. Better be careful. Better be careful when beefing with these clowns. Oh, I'm not beefing. He's free to correct me. We checked the Air Force. He was never in the Air Force, so I don't just believe that he has a degree without verifying that. And I'm not sure that anybody has verified his science credentials. But for somebody that's supposed to have a master's degree in what was it, physics, saying that speed is not relative, speed does not speed up or slow down, that's completely and totally scientifically and factually fake, inaccurate, wrong. How is he wrong about that if he has a degree in physics? Anybody with a degree in physics will tell you that speed does change, right? The 1971 experiment that famously tested this by flying atomic clocks on commercial airliners around the world and comparing them to ground-based clock is called the Kafel-Keating experiment. Yes, and that proved that time does speed up or slow down relative to the speed at which you're at. So, I don't know. I can verify his science degree. It's called a Cracker Jack box. Yeah.
But they had to the tall whites had to prove to the Americans that they were telling them the correct, or wanted to prove that. And so they came down and grabbed me and put me in the hold of the cargo shop. And I still remember the trip up there and the trip back.
Where did they go? Did you leave?
No, they just lifted off, and we just went gently up the valley, perhaps 100 feet off the ground. And I remember flying around Range 4, so I made the turn around Range 4, and then going up the valley they were going to the scout craft, the back entrance to their scout craft.
Yes, time dilation, showing that
the door was open, we went in there, and then there was a whole bunch of them in there, but there were also American generals and some American medical people. And the 6 sergeants, that was chief master sergeants, that were the human guards for the human generals, and the teacher in Range 4, Harry. And it was just like sitting here in a chair, only in the cargo hold. And they didn't totally power up because they didn't have to. And it was like sitting here in the chair and having the whole room just be lifted up and taken and come back. And
he was in the cargo.
Remarkably unremarkable.
Yeah.
Yeah. The important part was that they thought they'd electronically hypnotize me, but their equipment doesn't work if you're sick, or if you're angry, or if you're really tired.
Oh, if you're tired or angry or sick, the technology doesn't work. If you take drugs in space, do you get even higher? I really don't know. Perfect Harmony just became a YouTube channel member. Thank you for that. And just so everybody knows, if you become a YouTube channel member during a live broadcast, we'll give you a big shout out and thank you. So big shout out and thank you to Perfect Harmony, who now gets a YouTube channel member badge, some extra goodies in our members only section. It's filled with members only videos, and we thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. Newest member of our channel, Truth Seekers here, Perfect Harmony 007. Thank you for your kindness. Let's continue with the bulls. Oh man, we're 40 minutes into this. God, I feel stupider than when we started.
And
I
since
feel like you lose brain cells the longer you listen to a Jesse Michaels video.
I was, even though my knee was not broken, I was still experiencing some pain.
You're
You know, it was
welcome.
still tender. It meant that the way my
pleasure.
thoughts, the blood flow in the brain was
This guy bored the aliens
somewhat
into another
different
dimension.
than the way it would normally be. And so therefore, when you
Feeling a
use the
bond with zero
electronic
gravity is
hypnotism on
problematic.
me,
Yes.
that would normally have worked when I was ordinary, if I was healthy and well rested, it didn't quite do the job.
It's almost like anesthesia
Yeah,
that doesn't
rainbow
work
knife.
during surgery or something.
Yeah.
You're still awake.
Yeah.
So speaking of,
So I got to remember it.
yeah.
Range 4 here, I knew that was the case, but that was all I could do. Yeah.
Why do you think they
it.
chose you for all of
Sure.
this? Why do you think you were sort of picked to be endowed with this knowledge?
Well, the weather observer.
One time I asked a different person who was one of the top, identified himself as one of the top 3 psychiatrists at the CIA. One of the time I asked him
Notice he
why
doesn't
they
name.
chose me. Okay. Because I said I thought there were lots of men that were better at going out in the desert and surviving and
Retirement home is
doing
nice.
fiction
Well, you got a lot of
trips and so on
UFO
than
dollars
myself.
telling this fake
A
story.
lot of weather observers with more experience and so on than me. And he told me the following. He said that, and he had like 9 PhDs hanging on the wall for different facets of psychiatry. And he was a very nice guy. He was surprisingly young, like in his 30s. He said that when he studied
Even his voice is
psychiatry,
broken.
he was told that there was 105 different psychological defenses that humans might use. The most famous is whistling in the dark. Okay. He said that most humans only use 1 or 2 at the most. That one of the projects that he and the others usually did was trying to train colonels and generals on how to have more psychological defenses.
That's another thing.
They were hoping.
That's how you spot a bullshitter. How many people have you ever met that have 9 PhDs? Did you hear this clown? This stolen valor fake Air Force clown? He just said that he met a high-ranking CIA psychiatrist that had 9 PhDs. How many people in America have 9 PhDs? I could ask Rock, right? If my keyboard wants to cooperate with me. It doesn't. I can't believe I just took a brand new keyboard out of the box right before it broadcast, and the space bar keeps sticking. How many people in the U.S. Come on. Oh, I might have to take a break here. Just bear with me a moment here. I think that the one key that you need the most, right? Nine PhDs. Let's see if Grok knows. How many people in the U.S. have 9 PhDs? Oh, wow. Listen to that. About 40,000 people. Really? Well, it's still, I have it in expert mode, so it's still looking it up. Just seems very implausible to me. Like, oh, he had 9 PhDs. It's still researching. All right, well, we'll continue, and then we'll come back to that question. Is it really that common for somebody to have 9 PhDs? I don't think so.
To get generals to use 3, or they always wanted him to use 3. They were hoping they could get him to use 4 or 5. This is of the 105. And he said that he
And the
had
new
told
keyboard.
his
It really pisses me
the
off.
other guys that were with him, psychiatrists, that some of the there were some generals he was trying to.
I mean, my wife is like adamant. She's going to make me return this thing. And then I got to go to Kohl's because it came from Amazon and all this stuff. Just get my like $22 back. It's not an expensive keyboard. I don't know.
He thought he was going to get him to learn 7, and he couldn't. They were going to hang in there at 3.
Okay.
He said that the first time he met me.
Issue. It's extremely rare for anyone to hold multiple PhDs, let alone 9, as earning one typically requires years of intensive research and is uncommon beyond academic or personal pursuits. Based on available data and records of notable individuals with multiple doctorates, there are no publicly documented cases of people in the United States who hold 9 PhDs. For contrast, U.S. produces around 1,000 new PhD graduates annually. Roughly 2% of the adult population holds at least one PhD. Individuals with 2 or 3 PhDs exist, but are extremely uncommon, while those with 9 or more are exceptional outliers globally, often from outside of the U.S. So there is a guy named Robert McGee who owns 13 earned doctorates in fields of accounting, economics, laws, and philosophy from institutions in the U.S. and Europe. Other Americans known for accumulating degrees. Yeah, so there's no known records of anybody in the United States that has 9 PhDs. So we just caught this guy in a bold-faced lie. Jesse, you're still sitting there like a fucking moron. Like that wasn't a red flag for you? Oh, I met this guy that has 9 PhDs. 9 PhDs? Right? There's nobody that has 9 PhDs that's known of in the United States. And I've just checked with 2 more AIs. Both of them did the research and confirming that there is no known publicly available information about anybody in the United States that holds 9 PhDs. You could have done that. And look how quickly we did that and proved him a liar. Doesn't your audience deserve to know that this guy's lying about meeting people with 9 PhDs? Doesn't your audience deserve to know that this guy is basically misinforming people? He's telling porkies to your audience. Jesse Michels doesn't care about his audience. His audience is not like loved and respected. Like my audience is loved and respected by me. Jesse Michels' audience is just a pool of victims at this point. Victims of disinformation, misinformation, and fake fraudery and bullshittery.
He was shocked because in the first 15 minutes, he saw me use the first 70 out of the 105. And he was certain I could use the other 100, the
70
remainder of the 105. And you can see it in my books. He said the 41 men that went out before me, who all came back compromised and some of them burned, he said the problem they had, in his opinion,
these groups are oblivious to fact checking, I guess.
They recognized what they were up against, or something of what they were up against, before they understood how they were going to had decided how they were going to react.
My fake degrees for my fake stories.
And he said that and therefore what
big porkies that he told. One, that time doesn't speed up or slow down. And number 2, that he met a guy with 9 PhDs. I mean, come on. And we add this to the fact that you can't verify his military credentials as being real. His story is completely and totally fake.
Happened was
his military credentials are completely and totally fake. The guy claims to have a physics degree, but he doesn't know that time is relative. You didn't learn that in physics in high school or college?
In just the first encounter, their psychological defenses got destroyed.
Yeah.
And he said that the reason they sent
everybody else that came before me couldn't handle the aliens, but I'm special. So I could handle the alien interactions without having psychological breakdowns. He's making himself the hero of his own story.
Not me. He said, if there ever was a person to send, it would be you. He said it's because they'll never lay a glove on you. They'll never, that no matter what happens, you have a defense.
The mailman out delivering.
Okay.
And they had evaluated that prior to sending you out.
Yeah.
So
All
you-
degrees,
you-
man.
Yeah.
None.
They have a, and you can see it in there. There was a time when I thought that the extraterrestrial lady I was looking at, that I was hallucinating. And I was kind of surprised.
Yeah, maybe somebody
because
slipped you some LSD.
I was kind
buddy.
of thinking that if I
Stories
was going to
is pretty
hallucinate, I was alone out in the desert, I was young and single.
4
But
aliens.
if I was going to
into a
hallucinate,
fucking
then I would
horse.
be more like a Las Vegas showgirl. And she wasn't, And I thought, my God, how sick am I? I'm not even,
I am the
see?
champion. That is correct.
And she was laughing, because she could tell what I was thinking because of her
Fake
electronic equipment. You see, and there was a time when I thought that I must be short on vitamins when they would come into my barracks at Indian Springs, and I would get up and I would see the children playing, and I thought, golly, I knew I should have drank more milk. It's for supper. I
Yes,
must
I've
be
heard
short
of
on
Bert
vitamins and
Maxwell.
milk. And
Not a
so I
fan.
would take more vitamins, and they would still keep coming. There was a time
But
when
you're also debriefing with generals who are admitting that this is a phenomena that they're aware of and that they're kind of working alongside
Oh,
these
thank you,
ETs. Is that
Sarah.
right?
No,
Soil alien.
I'm never debriefed.
You're never
I'm
debriefed.
never briefed. I'm never debriefed.
But aren't you
Not
talking
only
to the
that's not
generals
an
about-
accent.
are
My
you-
orders are, I can never be briefed. I can never be debriefed. And the reason is very simple.
Uh-huh.
Because the tall whites, like the teacher, can tell what a person is thinking, even if they're not talking. Well, if you're
Fine
debriefed
pigs
and they're
can come from
very
every planet.
touchy
Yes,
about
including Pluto.
their children, if a
Make Pluto a planet
briefing
again.
person were to say, what kind of mother is the teacher? How does she treat her little girl? I mean,
He's
she was
throwing his
lost
first
in the
underwear.
sagebrush
Yes.
and you saved her life. How did they let that happen? See, then they wouldn't have to ask me to tell them about it. See, they could tell
Nobody
if I
else
just
knows
read
about all
my
about
thoughts.
fat whites.
The next thing they would demand is
Yeah,
that
now he's a
somebody
mind
like
reader.
that officer be delivered to them out in the desert, and he wouldn't live another moment. Okay, yeah, and I wouldn't have to say anything or do anything or say else, because she could just tell, oh yeah, I read Charlie and I see that happened.
See,
So when I say that no one could ever ask me questions, I could never be debriefed, nothing I would do would ever be classified. Like no one could, they couldn't even inspect me. If they wanted to talk to me, they physically had to come out to
Generals aren't
the
allowed to
parking
answer
lot of the
questions.
chow hall at Indian Springs between noon and 12:30.
Yeah, he is
And I
all
would
over the
meet them
place.
there if I felt like meeting them, or if I didn't, then they would just, and before they went out, they would have to check in with the base commander at Nellis. And when they came back, they had to go directly from checking on base to the base commander and say, yeah, I looked healthy and so on. And they couldn't come out and inspect my barracks or see anything.
have you mentioned the CIA psychiatrist who said that you had all these psychological defenses?
Yeah, the guy
And
with
that's-
9 PhDs. Go find me a guy with 9 PhDs, Jesse Michels. Go find me anybody that works for the CIA with 9 PhDs, Jesse Michels, you fucking moron, putting this garbage out into the world.
Sort of allowed you to enter into relations with the ETs
It allowed me,
and come back and
no, it allowed me to protect my thoughts,
Yes, the
the person
president
I
had
am,
book time with him,
before
so
admitting to
important.
myself, they are real,
Story
and I
straight.
know what I'm going to do.
Have you ever heard the name Kit Green? Is that familiar to you at all?
Doesn't ring a bell, but I probably heard him. But like the first thing the first agreement I made with them was after realizing they were real.
Hungry wives.
I asked
What?
them that whenever they came around me, that they talk between themselves,
If you
if they
tell
were
the truth,
talking
you don't
between
have to remember
themselves or
it
with me in a
completely.
way that I could hear, to speak English, because it frightened me
And listen,
if
I've
they were
listened to
talking.
this guy's interviews. He's always all over the place like this, like just all over the place. It's like he can't form a coherent thought or something.
between themselves, and it sometimes sounded like horse whinnies or bird calls. And they agreed. And then the second one was that if I saw them out in the desert,
Jesse's mind
like
right
if
now.
I came over a rise and there was one sitting on a rock, I understood that it was easy for me to sneak up on him behind him and surprise him, and I didn't want to do that. I would just stop where I was and stand where I was and sing a song
He
and
sang
let
to the
them know I
aliens.
was there.
I would just
And then if
sing to
they
the
wanted to come closer, I would just stand there and they could walk up towards me and stop whenever they wanted
aliens. They're
to.
very
I wouldn't
trustworthy too. Yeah.
pursue, I wouldn't close the gap. And if they got too close to me so that I started feeling intimidated, I would start backing away and they would stop.
He sounds like Pete
And
Peters.
then when we had
Old senile
decided how
fucking
far
weirdo.
apart we were going to be physically, then we could communicate.
Your wife, Marie Therese, mentioned that you actually were sent out initially.
Initially, I was supposed to go from after doing my basic training at Lackland. Then I was put in
range for
PAT
Harry
standing.
up on him.
You know, that was airman waiting their security clearance. Okay. And those airmen were going to get a security clearance and be sent to San Angels, Texas for Security School 101. We're supposed to wait there for like 3 weeks or so. Okay. Now, the security clearance you're waiting for is whatever the government decides to give you, but it's supposed to be the top secret clearance. Okay. Now, the security training, the people who are sent to San Angels, Texas,
what kind of drugs?
Are
not job
waiting to get their orders to San Angels, Texas. However, in my case, they issue 2 sets of orders.
Keep saying okay.
The real ones to San Angels, Texas.
He's trying to see if he believes them or not.
And the cover orders to the weather training school at Chinook Air Force Base, Illinois. The idea is that the captain, who was in charge of those guys.
I don't think I could take much more of this. So let's take a look at this instead. This is from Richard Cole, who is a verified real Marine and an expert on military records. And I'm the colleague who contacted him. He writes, I was contacted by a colleague who asked if I would investigate the military service claims of Charles James Hall. He's well known in the UFO conspiracy community as having written a series of books detailing his experiences with tall white aliens at Nellis Air Force Base. Here he says, I enlisted in the United States Air Force in July 1964. After completing basic training at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas, I was trained as a United States Air Force weather observer at United States Air Force Weather Training School at Chinook Air Force Base, Illinois. Only one problem, there's no record of him ever attending a class there. My duties were that of U.S. Air Force weather observer during my entire service in the U.S. Air Force. Hall does not name the weather squadron he was assigned. In late March or early April of 1965, I was assigned, says Hall, to the weather squadron stationed at Nellis Air Force Base, Las Vegas, Nevada. I was stationed at Nellis Air Force Base from the early spring of 1965 until May 1967. Hall claims temporary assigned duty to range sites at Indian Springs. So here, Richard Cole says a documentary was eventually produced and directed by Emil Marzak in 2020 for Amazon Prime titled Walking with the Tall Whites. And here this is what Jesse Michels sent me. I don't think that's a real document. That's just my opinion. I'm entitled to my opinion. Jesse Michels didn't get it authenticated. There's no proof that's a real document. One moment here. Okay, so this is another photo. These are the photos, and there's a real problem. Hall details his service in Vietnam in the documentary beginning in 1967. The documentary includes several photographs taken of Hall in Vietnam. The first 3 photographs show Hall in a combat utility uniform wearing the rank of Senior Airman Sergeant. He is armed with a CAR-15 service rifle, where all United States Air Force weather observers issued a CAR-15 and 2 pouches for 620-round magazines. So this is where somebody that's really in the military says something's not right with these images. The images in the documentary also appear to show permanent buildings with power lines and poles extending for hundreds of yards, as well as outdoor lighting, as exampled in the image below. Now, why is that important? He appears to be shaving with a knife or bayonet. And then he says, what's wrong with this picture? They don't give weather observers weapons like that. They do not issue those type of weapons. Researcher David Hilton submitted National Archive Standard Form 180 to the National Personnel Records Center in St. Louis, Missouri in August of 2015. Hilton received responses from the NPR, which stated that no record of Charles James Hall's military service was located. I was given a choice and then from the documentary, he says, I was given a choice of re-enlisting or becoming an officer and being the duty weather observer for my entire career out in the ranges. If I elected to go to Vietnam, they would send me to Cameron Bay, which was the nicest place to get sent because you weren't really under fire or anything. When I got back, I would only have 2.5 months left of my enlistment, so I would be discharged and I could go home. And since I was quite homesick by the time I decided to take Vietnam, because I was expecting to get sent to Cameron Bay and have an easy rest tour after all the stuff I had been through out in the ranges. Hall claimed that when he arrived to report to headquarters with his orders in Vietnam near Saigon, the South Vietnamese air base Pinh Thu near Mekong River had been attacked with American casualties. Hall said that Sergeant processing him tore up his orders to Cameron Bay and then typed new orders for him to report to an air base at Pinh Thu. Hall's bio for Goodreads states, Charles received an award for surviving more than 35 communist attacks. These are fake awards, in my opinion. Because listen, there's lists of people who win these awards. Go check the list of people that won the Air Force Commendation Medal. Go check the list of people who won the Air Force Good Conduct Medal, National Defense Service Medal, Vietnam Service Medal with a Bronze Star, Republic of Vietnam Gallantry Cross with Palm, U.S. Air Force Republic of Vietnam Campaign Medal. Yeah, so there's a problem with his claimed awards. Hall previously referenced the acronym AFB, normally used for Air Force Base, but in several instances, including the one quoted above, used the acronym BFA. No veteran would overlook making this mistake in naming the bases they were assigned. For example, Nellis Air Force Base, AFB, or Travis Air Force Base, AFB, would be commonly accepted terms. So he's even using the wrong terminology that a real person from the military wouldn't make. On August 8th, an article by Michael Salas states that a researcher and airline pilot, David Coote, was able to contact Charles Hall through a woman named Paula Harris. Harris then facilitated contact with 3 witnesses. The article details testimony of witnesses A, B, and C who claimed they were stationed in the U.S. Air Force at the same area of Indian Springs, Nevada, about the same period as Hall during the 1960s. The only person to investigate Hall, to my knowledge, was the aforementioned David Hilton. So in other words, you know, they're finding fake people to back up his story. This gets very wordy, but basically, he claimed many things that are historically wrong. In a short article written in 2000, Sam Pyle, member of the U.S. Air Force 632nd Security Police Squadron stationed at Binh Thu Air Base, described his experience during an early Tet mortar attack. In his first book, Charles Hall claims he reported to Binh Thu as a second-class airman second class. Questions and concerns. Why are there no records found for Charles Hall at the National Personnel Records Center? A technician could verify that there is enough information required to process the request. If any of the required information is incorrect or missing, the request cannot be processed. These include full name, date of birth, and place of birth, service branch, and dates of service. Since Hall's records fall into archive record category and is not digitized, the archive technician would have to physically retrieve his entire record I don't know exactly what happened, but the SF-180 sent by David Hilton appeared to have all the required information, but information Hilton submitted correct. Was the record destroyed? Why would Hall refuse to provide researchers a redacted copy of his DD-214 as proof of service? Researcher and YouTube creator Stephen Cambion states in his video that he had contacted Charles Hall on multiple occasions requesting Hall provide a redacted form of his proof of military service claims. Cambion reported that after confronting Hall that no record was found by David Hilton, who had previously found no record from National Personnel Record Center of Hall's military service history in 2015. Charles Hall told Cambion that his records were top secret and you don't have the need to know. Why would Hall provide a false date of birth or other false information required by NPRC to process FOIA requests for releasable service details? I believe it is because he is hiding something. Hall has produced photos that supposedly taken of himself in Vietnam, as well as certificates and award, but I believe they may be hiding his actual military MOS or duty assignments prior to serving in Vietnam. If it were proven that he was not a U.S. Air Force weather observer stationed at Nellis Air Force Base, then his tall white alien story is a total lie. And Michael Salla, as well as Jesse Michels here, who promoted him, are all complicit in the lie. For the last 20 years, I've investigated cases of a suspected fraudulent military service claim. Each is unique and some are very complicated. I learned early the hard way never to accuse an actual veteran of false claims without providing documented evidence. Mr. Charles Hall will have the benefit of the doubt until facts are obtained. But here's where it gets interesting. So apparently, Charles Hall gives a different date of his birth in his books than he did on his public Facebook page. On his public Facebook page, his birthday is a different date. Why would he have two different birthdays? He can't remember his birthday? So, to his credit, our researcher here submitted a request for Charles Hall records with the National Personnel Record Center using VetTrex and the same details of Hall submitted by David Hilton. I received the following notification. And here he shows that the National Personnel Record Center came back and said, we can find no records of his enlistment in the Air Force. So a file-up FOIA was submitted to the NPRC VetTrex in July 2023 using updated information on Hall's date of birth, place of enlistment, and place of discharge. Hall's awards, decorations, duty assignments, and education were specifically requested. That request was received. The July 11th follow-up request included a link to the specific blog post. Conclusion. This is a conclusion of Richard Cole, who is a verified military records expert. It is my belief that Charles James Hall created an elaborate hoax resulting in a documentary film featuring his fictional claims of military service to establish credibility for his bizarre, sensational claims with aliens for fame and monetary gain. So there we have it, friends. And by the way, I did this research, but I wanted to be 100% sure before I start accusing Charles Hall of being a fraud and a liar and a stolen valor scammer. So I enlisted the help of Richard Cole, who's a verifiable expert when it comes to military records and service records. So it's just interesting to me that I could do this work, but Jesse Michels couldn't do this work. And I have one more video to share with you of a comedic nature, and it comes to us from Matt DeWhite on Matt DeWhite at MATTDA White, WHITE on Twitter. He makes some funny videos. And he recognized one of the same things that I recognized, that Jesse Michels' show, it's all people saying, I think so, it could be, it's possible that, and things like that. In other words, it's all speculation, right? So here's a funny look at that. And by the way, I had to, I'm sorry, Matt DeWhite, but I had to remove the music at the beginning because he used Disney music, and that would certainly get copyright claims. But this is Delusional Pictures, right? So there's been a recent interview with UAP Gerb, And it was I listened to the whole 4 hours while I was doing other things, thank God, but holy shit, this guy just kept saying, it might be, it could be, I believe that, allegedly, like the whole thing is just one big box of speculative mess. Let's check it out.
You have a real map that you're kind of basically like illustrating through every single episode of what is actually happening in the concrete UFO reverse engineering programs.
And he has no proof. He has total speculation.
Correct. If we want to talk hyper specifics today, we can do just that.
Let's do it.
I think probably, I don't know, or it's probably, I think probably highly accurate, highly likely, probably true. There seems to be I would imagine this could be, I think that's incorrect. I think that's very incorrect. I think this would be, apparently would be allegedly. That is how I view the structural types of programs.
So weird.
Wow.
Townsend Brown.
Well,
These aren't just campfire stories.
This
Look
sphere,
at the set. It looks like some retarded kid with too much money was given money to make a set, right?
So weird. Crazy.
I
Townsend
guess
Brown.
it's
These aren't just campfire
spaceship. I don't know.
this sphere was basically used to, I guess, like coagulate time onto the Planck scale, looking at
Coagulate time onto the Planck scale. What does that even mean, UAP Gerb? And I'm sorry, I don't know that guy, but what he does is total speculation. Like, well, could it be that the United States government has moved the crash retrieval material to Lockheed Martin, so that it's not FOIA-able and it's private industry, so they can work in total secrecy? These are old UFO grifter talking points. None of this means anything unless you have evidence of that. But it's all speculation.
At time
Let's do 4 hours of circle jerking each other. These two did 4 hours of jerking each other off, giving each other disclosure alien boners.
as frames of Planck scale, and combined with like the many worlds interpretation of quantum physics to like view parallel timelines.
Parallel
People like to
timeline.
talk in these sort of really vague generalities. It's always everything is everything. A lot of mushy brain thinking.
The subject of alien reproduction vehicles, I've started to transition more to the usage
Alien reproduction vehicles is another hoax perpetrated by Mark McCandlish, in my opinion,
of the term
and Stephen Greer, of course.
derivative technology.
I think Townsend Brown figured out,
Oh, you got to mention Townsend Brown in every fucking episode, you moron, Jesse Michaels.
like, real anti-gravity or
Yeah.
whatever, the human kind of
He figured out real anti-gravity. Why is there no scientific evidence or proof that Townsend Brown figured out real anti-gravity? Can you show us? Show us a spaceship flying with anti-gravity, Jesse.
terrestrial context.
Or are you wrong? Oh, and let's not forget, I cannot let myself forget that Jesse Michaels profited from this fucking retarded Nazca alien scam. And hey, Jesse, you retard. This came from Jaime Maussan. I can show you a graph. I don't have it handy, but I'll be happy to email it to you. That details some 50 proven alien and UFO scams and hoaxes that Jaime Maussan was part of. And that is the person who first promoted and popularized this Nazca mummy scam. But Jesse Michaels jumped right in to get his money. He jumped right in to get his money. Did you do an update for your audience to tell them, like, oh, this came from a grave robber and a known scammer? Do you know that the guy who found those was convicted of fraud, financial fraud, before he became a grave robbing scumbag? Did you know that? Did you know that this scam involves people using human dead babies and ripping them apart and gluing them back together to look like an alien? Jesse Michaels really might be retarded for platforming this Nazca mummy scam. And I don't care. You've got a staff, you've got money. He's got far more money and resources than me. How come I was able to find anatomy experts that could show you that these were human bones put in the wrong places? For example, a leg bone used as an arm bone to give it that long alien arms look. Why was there llama skulls used in some of these as the actual alien skull? An anatomy expert can tell you that, Jesse. Why didn't you enlist the help of an expert? Why did you just credulously entertain this stupid, retarded hoax that literally scumbags ripped apart dead bodies. Congratulations, Jesse Michels. You made money off of despicable, disgusting degenerates that dug up dead bodies, ripped them apart, and glued them back together again to look like aliens. But as long as you made your money, right? And I always say this to everybody who profited and promoted this Nazca alien scammy hoax, which involved the desecration of human remains, including dead human babies. Where are your relatives buried? Because I might need to make some money someday, and I might just dig up Jesse Michels' grandpa and grandma and then rip their bodies apart and glue them back together to look like an alien so I can make some money. And although this is just an example, of course, I would never do something like that. But my question to Jesse Michels is it okay with you if I do that? If I dig up your dead grandparents or great-grandparents and I just rip their bodies apart and then I glue them all back together to look like an alien, and then I put it on display and I claim it's an alien mummy so that I could make money? If you're not okay with that, then take that fucking video down, you degenerate scumbag, or at least do an update and give your audience the whole truth. Why won't you tell your audience that these have been debunked for years and years and years? They were debunked when they first came out. Why won't you tell your audience that, like, anatomy experts have looked at these, and all of them that are not being directly paid by the scammers running the scam in the form of Jaime Maussan say that they're deformed bodies and that they've been manipulated and that this is a hoax? Why won't you tell your audience that? Could it be because you just took the money and run like you always do? And if you're not okay with people digging up your ancestors and ripping their bodies apart to make some money, then maybe you shouldn't be okay with these degenerate scumbags and what they did to those poor dead people that they used in this scam. You know, the level of disgusting, despicable people in the UFO community, it never surprises me anymore. Jesse Michels said it's okay for people to dig up human dead people, including dead babies, and rip their bodies apart and glue them back together with some plaster, make them look like aliens. He said that's okay, as long as he gets to make some fucking money out of it. You're a degenerate scumbag, Jesse Michels, for doing that. And again, there's only 3 reasons he would do something like that. He's doing it on purpose. He knows they're fake and doesn't care. He's just here for the money. Or he's the dumbest, laziest UFO person on planet Earth, or he's retarded. All 3 of them, I'll forgive him. If he's truly retarded, I'll forgive him. But I'm going to need to see some medical records confirming his mental retardation diagnosis, because only a purposeful scumbag would do this, or somebody that's the laziest, scammiest researcher of this topic in the world would do this. Or he's retarded. Those are the only 3 choices he has. And if he's just lazy, that's not good. That doesn't paint him in a good light. If he's doing it on purpose to make money, that doesn't paint him in a good light. And by the way, just to be clear, I'm not stating that anybody should find out where Jesse Michels' great-grandparents live and dig them up or anything like that. It's just an example. Like, truly, if he would object to that, then why didn't he object to this? It's okay to dig up other people's relatives, just not mine, to make an alien buck? It's absolutely ridiculous.
Physics about like internal mass reduction and like space-time bubbles and inertial dampening and stuff like that, that absolutely should be given to humanity.
For sure.
Yeah.
4 hours.
I think over time that Nomgren's
nonsense.
testimony is going to age like fine wine.
Yeah.
When I've spoken to Eric
Not
Davis,
even they
he seems
understand.
to be, like talking about like quantum teleportation,
Yeah,
saying
that's-
like that's already established science, and that sounds insane because the word teleportation is in it, but like, is that necessarily involved in like UFO tech, or is it?
So much of the science and physics is so far beyond me.
Me too.
They don't even understand what the hell it's
Nature of
talking
reality.
about.
First principles.
Crash retrieval program A, B, C, and D, E, G, and G, SAIC,
What a great video by Matt White.
OSUD, ANS.
Yeah.
For extraterrestrial vehicle simulator built off.
Older tech retrofitted on super advanced alien tech.
I think he was.
What is he
red-
talking
and people's
about?
heart.
This is an interview.
Makes sense. Polarizable vacuum. I think it's weight reduction.
Bodies were kept on ice. I
And,
wish more legacy people had consciences.
Oh boy, friends. And I thought we were pretty much through here. Did I missed some super chats, I guess. I apologize. Dave Whiteman is here saying, rest in peace, Eric Von Donigan. I once believed in the ancient aliens theory so much, but that guy was a scammer like all the rest, right? But thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support, Dave Whiteman. Much appreciated. And we've got That Cat Returns. Rest in shame, Eric Van Donigan. Ha ha ha. Humboldt Honey with one for the goal. One moment here. And we've got Tim Curley with one for the goal. Great topic, Stephen. I arrived late today because of work, but I will watch from the beginning. And we've got Humboldt Honey has been a member for 5 months. Thank you for that. And Perfect Harmony became a member. Thank you for that. So I just wanted to also check back with some of the people that Mr. Michels interviews, because he interviews dirtballs and scumbags and scammers. And it's very clear to me that he interviews dirtballs and scumbags and scammers, right? Let's go to his, let's just go to his, one moment here. I forgot about one other person that he's cozy with that's a complete and total lunatic, wackadoo scammer. And there's substantial evidence and proof that he scammed the public. And that would be Peter Levenda. Where is it? He's got popular videos. I like this too. This NASA guy bans people from the Facebook group for asking questions. You're not allowed to do that. Oh, and then he interviews Bledsoe, a guy who claimed an awful lot of things. But did you tell your audience when you interviewed Christopher Bledsoe that he failed a lie detector test about his initial story? Did you tell your audience that a follower of Christopher Bledsoe murdered his own father on a live stream on Twitter, stabbed his father to death while talking about the lady and shit that Bledsoe talks about? Did you tell your audience that the man that you interviewed may be responsible for somebody murdering somebody, going completely nuts and murdering somebody? And then, of course, he's interviewing James Fox, who is a complete and total scumbag grifter. He's been selling the same vagina alien stories for years and years. Now he's selling it more, right? Where is Peter Levenda is in here somewhere. Oh, yeah. CIA historian, Aliens Control Our Government, featuring Peter Levenda. Well, there's a problem with you interviewing Peter Levenda. I'm sure you didn't do any research into Peter Levenda's past, did you? Because that would be asking too much. You know, you expect, yeah. If you're only making a paltry $10 or $20 or $30,000 an interview, I guess we can't expect you to do 5 minutes of research, right? Because that would be just too much work for you to do, 5 or 10 minutes of research. So Peter Levenda was involved in the most notorious mystical book hoax, and that is the Simon Necronomicon. It was published in 1977 by Avon Books under the pseudonym Simon. The book purports to be a genuine Sumerian grimoire, complete with incantations, rituals, and references to Lovecraftian deities reinterpreted through Mesopotamian mythology. It includes sections like the Book of Entrance and the Gates of the Necronomicon, with instructions for magical workings. However, it is widely regarded as a complete and total fabrication, which was stitched together from real ancient sources, such as plagiarized passages from James P. Pritchard's ancient Near Eastern text relating to the Old Testament, mixed with H.P. Lovecraft's fiction and modern occult ideas. And what you need to know is, during that time period, H.P. Lovecraft fiction was on the rise. It was becoming hugely popular. And in H.P. Lovecraft fiction, there is a mythical, magical grimoire named the Necronomicon. So wouldn't you know it, somebody found it, but it was completely and totally fake. Jesse Michels, did you tell your audience that Peter Levenda may have scammed hundreds of thousands of people into buying a completely and totally fake book? Because critics, including historians Owen Davies and Daniel Harms, have called that book a very well-constructed, complete, and total hoax, noting its similarities to legitimate grimoires while emphasizing its completely inauthentic origins. Peter Levenda is commonly identified as the true author behind the Simon Necronomicon, and this is based on multiple lines of evidence. He is listed as a translator in the book's preface. He held copyright for related sequels like The Gates of Necronomicon, 2006, and has been named by associates from the New York occult scene, such as illustrator Kem Kagan and occultist Alan Cabal, who described it as a well-known hoax in their community. So even people in the esoteric and occult community are saying Peter Levenda wrote this. Handwriting analysis from letters attributed to Simon matches Levenda's, and that's according to multiple handwriting analysis experts. And then there are audio lectures by the so-called author of the Necronomicon, Simon, that reportedly feature Peter Levenda's voice. And although Levenda has consistently denied authorship, often unprompted, which some observers say he does to keep the controversy alive. In later works, under the Simon name, like Dead Names, The Dark History of the Necronomicon, the pseudonym addresses criticisms and defends the book's concepts and legitimacy, which align closely with Levenda's own interests in occult synthesis. So what we have here is him interviewing Peter Levenda as a CIA historian. But Jesse Michels just forgot to tell his audience that Peter Levenda scammed hundreds of thousands of people into buying a completely and totally fake book. And I'm sorry, Jesse Michels, you really might be retarded, and that's a valid excuse. If you're retarded, it's a valid excuse for doing that. But any decent researcher, show host should know the history of the people they are platforming in order to give their audience the whole truth. Who cares what that clown says about anything? Knowing that he scammed, perhaps, allegedly, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people. By the way, including me, I bought that book as a teenager. It was popular at the time to buy and read books like the Satanic Bible and the Necronomicon and Ritual Magic and all these other weird occult books. And that, of course, was just, I suppose, my Catholic rebellion phase, right? I wanted to see the other side of the story, right? And so it's clear he doesn't give this is why his scam works. Jesse Michels' scam works because he doesn't give his audience the full history of the people he's interviewing. Would anybody care what Peter Levenda has to say about aliens if you knew that he took part in one of the greatest occult book scams ever in history? A complete and totally fake book that he sold for years and years. By the way, you can still buy it. He's still selling that fake book, right? Would anybody care what that clown has to say about aliens if they knew that he took part in a complete and total huge scam like that, Jesse? Why didn't you tell your audience he may have scammed all those people with the fake book? And by the way, I almost went to a UFO convention where Peter Levenda was speaking, and I found my old Necronomicon book. I was going to go up to him and make him sign it because I think that shit would be funny, right? I think that shit would be totally funny. I'll take some comments and questions from the live chat. And, it just goes on and on and on. Like the and fraudery, it just never seems to end. Oh, Gary Nolan, he interviews. And of course, the Dave Grush interview. Where is the evidence, bro? None of these people have any evidence, right? And look at these clickbait titles, right? Presidential advisor, I directly handled UFO material. Sure you did. Sure you did. Aliens are accelerating human evolution. Okay. The age of psionics, UFOs, mind control, and global power. Oh boy, it just gets worse and worse. This is just, it's total clickbait garbage farming. That's what Jesse Michels is. He's a clickbait garbage farmer. But you know what? I think that he needs a fact checker. But he hasn't really offered me the job as fact checker for his shitty show. But I'm gonna do it anyway. As a public service for you, Jesse, going forward, when you interview a fucking scammer, I'm gonna be there going, excuse me, Jesse Michels is interviewing a scammer again. And I'm gonna be your fact checker, whether you like it or not, because you need one. So we're gonna perform a public service. I have appointed myself the American bullshittery, I'm sorry, American Alchemy fact checker. I'm getting business cards made, right? I'm going to get some business cards made, and I'll put Jesse Michels, my boss is Jesse Michels, and put his email address for his shitty show on my business cards. I think he needs a fact checker. Don't you think that his show would be better if before he interviewed a complete and total fake Air Force veteran like Charles Hall, somebody like me would warn him and say, whoa, that guy's bad news, Jesse. Don't interview him because you're going to look like a dumbass, right? You're going to look like a complete and total dumbass. But I think this is better. It's better than him giving me an actual official job as a fact checker, because he gets to look like a dumbass because he's going to continue platforming scammers and assholes like this. And I'm going to be there to inform the public. Every time you interview a scammer or you let a scammer say ridiculous things like he met a guy with 9 PhDs or that time doesn't slow up or speed down and he's supposed to have a fucking physics degree, I'm going to be there to remind people of what a bunch of bullshit you spew. And, you know, the reality is that what Jesse Michels does is he offers people a false reality. It is a completely and totally false reality. And all you have to do in order to buy into his false reality is check logic and critical thinking, fact checking, and any form of any research whatsoever. You got to check that at the door and come into Jesse Michels' retarded tent, you know, where only retarded people would believe this shit. It is completely and totally ridiculous. Somebody's asking for my email address. It's truthseekershow@gmail.com. So what does everybody think? Isn't the world going to be a better place with me fact-checking Jesse Michels' shitty show, American Alchemy? I think it is. And honestly, some of these other grifters are dying. You know, they're just dying. David Wilcock, dead in the water. Corey Good, dead in the water. Just Sarah R. Adams, dead in the water. By the way, this Sunday night, 7 p.m., the end of my investigation. Yes, Heavy Kev says, Campion has a polygraph, Wise B. Urger. Are you willing? Yeah, and by the way, I have put out, I built an in-person set in another room in my house where I can do in-person interviews, and the polygraph is in there. And I've been saying for more than a year now that anybody that has a strange story, did you see Bigfoot, did you see aliens, whatever, you could come and I'll hear your story and then I'll hook you up to the polygraph and we'll tell the audience whether you told the truth or not. I've only got one guy that agreed so far, and he's quite the wackadoo. He claims he's getting messages from interdimensional beings and stuff, and he's winning the lottery with the numbers they told him to play. Oh boy. We're going to hook that clown up to this polygraph soon. Didn't know that Steve supported Bob Lazar fully. I don't support Bob Lazar at all. I don't know what you guys are talking about. This is too important release to a toxic, unreasonable commentator. What do you got? You can email me at truthseekershow@gmail.com. Don't write me a book. You know, sometimes people try to get on my show and they write me a 25-page book. Don't write me a 25-page email. Too long, didn't read. You know, I just don't have time. And I get it, though. People think that's going to be more convincing, right? Delete what? What did I delete? I don't like people spreading disinformation and misinformation. I recently privated a bunch of videos when Corey Good attacked our channel. When I get a chance, I'll unprivate them. Bob, the pimp scientist. Yeah, he's a convicted pimp. Can anybody show me scientists that run a whorehouse? Just decide to quit science and run a whorehouse? Yes, 1-page summary, Weisberger. Go. Yeah, exactly. No one reads obnoxiously long messages. Well, listen, I get it. People see me on the show and they think, oh, Steve is interested in this. Let me tell him this whole big, long, super detailed story, right? Yeah, I don't know what you're on about. You can email me. I didn't delete anything. I don't know what you're talking about. There's always somebody, right, trying to stir up something. So questions or comments for me, please put them in all capital letters. I'm excited. I'm going to be the fact checker for a very big 500,000 subscriber channel. And that's going to be like a public service. We're going to do that as a public service, right? I tell people to keep it brief. I don't want to read a 100-page story. No. Yeah, Jesse, is that you? But you need the full context, Snort. Yes. Yeah, anybody's free to email me. I read every message, but not if they're going to be like a 100-page long big diatribe story. You know, there's a very nice guy. He claims that he's a prophet. He writes me books once in a while. I just don't have time to read them. You know, I don't have time to read your 100-page email. I'm sorry. And it's just reality, right? Everything you were saying, you literally were saying the opposite not too long ago. What are you talking about? I don't even know what you're talking about. What specifically did I say tonight that I was saying the opposite of not too long ago? And do you mean not too long ago, 6 years ago when I started my show? Yes, 6 years ago when I started my show, I believed many more of these stories were true. But this whole show experience has been like a personal journey. And I'm free to form new opinions. The more I research, the more I learn. Sorry, not sorry. I'm not just going to keep my blinders on when... Listen, this whole UFO community is filled with dickheads, dirtbags, scumbags, hoaxers, scammers, grifters. And by the way, those are just the good guys, right? So after you see so much fraud, so much scamming and grifting, you get a little cynical. So maybe I've gotten cynical, but I'm free to change my opinion. It used to be that I did believe things like the government was hiding alien spacecraft and the government was retrieving technology. Okay, Arlene. Arlene played whack a idiot, right? Yeah, be respectful in the live chat. That's our one and only rule. Be respectful. If you can't be respectful, fuck off. All right, so I think we've done our due diligence. I'm going to go get ready for my new job as the fact checker on American Alchemy. And by the way, Jesse, I've only just begun. I got more for you. I got a lot more for you. His channel is a treasure trove of bullshittery. You know, like I got excited. I got excited looking over his channel and all the frauds and scammers that he platforms and liars and bullshit artists. The only time I got more excited is when somebody sent me a archive of Project Camelot. That's a little even wilder, right? Crazy Carrie Cassidy, right? Yeah. Ashton Forms seems to be dropped off. That's good. Yeah, well, fuck that guy too. I've had enough of these scammers, especially because they make like, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Can't check into military records. Come on, Jesse. You make couple $100,000 a year. You can't file a simple request for somebody's government records. And again, that either means he's the laziest, stupidest UFO guy on planet Earth, or it means he's doing it on purpose. And neither of those things is good. Neither of those things is good. So I screwed up my week this week. Yesterday had some things to do. And so we're still trying to do 3 or 4 shows a week. I'm doing a show tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern, and that will be a secret space program show all about secret space scammers. And David Wilcock, we're going to throw a bunch of stuff together in the blender tomorrow to get a show out of it. People are asking for Dan Burrish. Yeah, this guy is popping up again. I did such a definitive debunk of that guy before, but I can't really find it. And it was with Solar Marshall. If Solar Marshall is listening and you have the link, let's do it again. We have to, it's like, I call it UFO scammer whack-a-mole. We beat these guys into fucking disappearing sometimes, Perfect Harmony. We debunk them so badly, they're afraid to show their face around for a while. But then they inevitably pop back up, and we have to play UFO grifter whack-a-mole and whack them back down again and remind people what frauds they are, right? Jesse, UFO poser. Do Randall Nickerson. Oh, that guy. Yeah, that guy is another one. And of course, he's on Jesse's show. Of course he's on Jesse's show, right? Well, I think we've done our due diligence for tonight. Check out our video section because I'm debuting another free documentary style video. It's pre-recorded, but that will be on Sunday night at 7 p.m. We've got a show tomorrow night at 7 p.m. And of course, we've got the Internet Insanity Circus show on Saturday night at 8 p.m. only on Kick. And people are crying about those funnel videos. Does anybody know what a funnel video is? If we're doing a show and it's only on Kick, we want to let people here in the channel know that we're live on Kick. So we run like a 2-hour looped thing with music and a picture or whatever, just saying, hey, we're live on Kick. I didn't realize that would bother so many people. People are crying, and, oh no, it's an ad. It's an ad to let you know that we're live right now and to go over to Kick. I don't know what else to do to get people over to Kick. And interestingly, we're getting really good replay numbers on those Internet Insanity Circus shows on Kick. I think the last one got 2,500 views, but we are only getting 50 to 100 live viewers somehow. I don't know why we're just not getting many live viewers. So please do show up and support my new show. It's Saturday night, 7 p.m. or Saturday night at 8 p.m. only on Kick, and the links will be here in the funnel video. So you'll know on Saturday, like, oh, click this link and you go right to the show where Steven is live on another platform. So that's all I got for you. I'm so excited. I'm going to be a fact checker for Jesse Michels. I'm going to tell everybody everywhere. If I go to a UFO convention, I'm going to introduce myself as the fact checker for American Alchemy. So we've done our due diligence, but there's a lot more to come. This is going to be a continuing series. I was going to call this series Jesse Michels is Retarded, but even though you're allowed to say that word again on YouTube without much trouble, I just said, we've got to come up. You know how we have like the wacky world of Wilcock? We need something for the Jesse Michels, and we need a theme song if anybody wants to help. Maybe Matt the White, since he's already on it. And thanks to Matt the White, follow him on Twitter. Steve's new show makes PWR feel like a hot dude. I'm going to check in with the Kick support. It looks like we've gotten nothing. No Kick support tonight. 1 day ago, Super Money Fist subscribed. But we got no Kick support tonight. I'm going to start being like Darkside Phil and start bitching. I'm going to start bitching and yelling at you guys over there on Kick. What is it? Must be a brokey crowd, right? I'd rather you save it for the circus show nights. Those are exclusively on Kick. I'd like to I'm trying to raise a whole bunch of money to buy some land. And we're going to start a campground, nature preserve. And by the way, I'm soon going to make a crazy deal with everybody that's a contributor to the show. And that is that if you ever send a super chat or PayPal pledge or Kick sub or gifted membership, if you've supported my show in any way, you'll be eligible to camp at this campsite we're building for free. Tents. I got tents. I'm trying to finish that first cabin, build a shed for storage and an outhouse as well. But If you want to rough it in a tent, you'll have a fire ring and you can pull in and have a good time. It's a great place. So we've done our due diligence for today. I will be back tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I will be back on Saturday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You guys are making me work all weekend. Normally I blame that on Spooky, but I'll blame it on all of you today. So that's all we got for you. To close, I would just like to say that Jesse Michaels' scam works because he doesn't give you the whole story. And I think that's wrong. So going forward, I'm going to do my best to try to give everybody the rest of the story that he purposefully, in my opinion, excludes from his videos in order to sell them. So that's all I got for you, friends. Until next time, my name is Stephen Cambion. Good night, and God bless all of you.